All right, welcome again to Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the bead and pour white lightning straight onto your brain. What are we talking about today, Samo?
We have Winter's Heart, Wheel of Time edition. And I've got because of some of the things that are going to happen, I've got my Snatch Specialist shirt on. I've got the Art of Seduction up there, plus the 48 Laws of Power, since we start with Rand. Plus some Bad Men, since we have Rand, which is actually the English title. It should be When Men Behave Badly. I don't know why I got the English cover when I ordered it from Amazon. Uh, then the Evolution of Desire up there. So we're gonna have fun with this one, I think.
I,
But
I
but then I
I have
also
an ice pack and a fan because I'm on the southwest corner of my house and I'm boiling over here.
oh well, this one I remembered the fun bits, but then I was
Mhm.
reading through it again and I remembered some annoying bits as well. So uh, we'll hopefully.
Well, yeah, I don't know how far we're going to make it. I wanted to make it pretty far here, so I don't know how
Oh,
much
and I also have my my
play-by-play I'll be doing.
my
Yeah, because
my hat.
we need to we've got two chapters of Rand here, and then we finally get to Matt. Um, Yeah, so we're on chapter 11, ideas of importance, and then um chapter 12, a Lily in Winter, and then there's some shenanigans in chapter 13. Uh Actually, I forgot about that before we actually get to Matt. And I'm speaking of Matt. Okay, so the I know I wanted to do as little play-by-play and get to the things we actually want to talk about, but the opening of the chapter made me remember, wait, I forgot about this, and now I don't remember why was he looking for Matt? Because he opens up and he's talking to
Sis
Min
Hearth, yeah.
about let's find Matt and Nynaeve and get out of here. And now Matt was supposed to be there because as far as Rand knew, he was escorting Elaine to Camelin. And as we saw, as we recall, that when he heard the rumors of an army marching north, he assumed that was the band, and oh no, that was actually the rebel Aes Sedai.
Well, which includes the band.
But yes, which includes the band. That gets a little twisty.
Yeah.
But I don't remember why he's looking for Matt here because the big thing Matt was supposed to do last we saw is already done because Matt was supposed to be in charge of the army on the border so that Samael would be looking there when Rand and Bashir jumped into the middle of the city. Um, so I
Yeah,
don't remember why he's looking for him here.
but you can always assume that he just wanted to get him back into the fold of doing his thing as the super
Yeah,
general that he's
that's the
become
only
because
thing
of
I could think
yeah.
of, but I didn't know if there was a specific thing that I wasn't remembering that he needed Matt to do.
I don't think he ever mentions it
Yeah. Now
in his
we can
head.
infer what Nynaeve is doing because the last we saw him, he told Min, "I'm gonna cleanse the source."
Hmm. And he's got the script, and we know it's in the script by the end of
Yep.
our talk here. So, uh, but yeah, I mean, it's just it, I don't think we need to think too hard into that. That he just
Hmm.
expected Matt to be there, and he's already thinking of his next machinations
Mm.
of where we're going to go from here. Okay, we took out Samael, we got Ilian. Maybe Matt's going to take over in Ilian, where there's kind of
Oh, you know
a
what? Yeah. My guess is I need Matt because I messed up when I faced the Sanshin.
yeah,
I need him to block the Sanshin and then deal with them. Is probably what he's
which
thinking
ultimately kind of does.
in his own special way.
And he just uses a different spear than his. Yeah, that's why we love Matt.
Speaking of using his spears, um, this this is why Min is here because no, we just need to get out of here. And she says you really need to see Elaine and Avienda, I suppose, because she's still not completely sure about Avienda. Um, and Rand is adamant, absolutely not. We find Matt, we find Elaine, or we find Matt, we find Nynaeve, we get out of here. Um, the I was thinking about this after our last talk because we spent a lot of time talking about Elaine and Avienda because of all the Elaine stuff going on. And I think we've talked about this before, but Rand's girls are different archetypes of women,
Hmm.
and he has a harem because he needs all of these archetypes. And Min is
Well,
the
that's why he also has Matt and Perrin too.
mhm.
He needs those as well.
So Matt and Perrin are his arms. They're because they're men. They do stuff. That's what men do, is we want to do stuff. He
Which releases
needs
vasopressin, which causes us to bond together, by the way. So there's your
yeah, bro.
biology lesson. Yeah.
Bro. So but then he needs the women for the mental and emotional that he's trying to shut off and ignoring. And Min is the archetypal uh behind every powerful man is a strong woman. That's what she is. And she becomes, and you see it from the very beginning that she is comfortable in her own skin. She's comfortable standing up as much as anyone stands up to an Aes Sedai and her warder. Um, that's part of her cheekiness, is because she that is her strength. That's showing her strength, that she's not going to back down from anyone. She's going to speak her mind. She's going to be her own person. And I don't think it's an accident that she's the powerless one here. You know, Elaine and Avienda can both channel. Avienda was a freaking, warrior and fought hand to hand. She's skilled in physical strength. Min is the powerless one because she has a different kind of power. And that's what she exhibits here with her cheeky little, why Rand, don't I always do everything you say? And then of course the first chance she gets is, oh hey, Mistress Harfer, take this guy. I've got to go find some friends. and dumps him off so that she can go find Elaine and Avienda and they can scheme because he needs it. And he's not going to do it on its own, and she can't talk him into it. So Min, being her own person and confident in what she knows is right, well, fine, then I'll just go do it.
Which is funny because you know, you've got the biological, the brains, the brawn, and then the cultural, the political, and they all satisfy one of those needs. You've got Avienda's the brawn, Min's the brain,
Mhm.
and Elaine is the culture. So you've kind of got the trifecta that he needs. Problem is he's bad at utilizing it, and they're bad at being utilized. Well, except for Min. Min is
Except
the
for Min.
one. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and you really see that later with Avienda, that
So I
she's
do have
kind
a
of the fourth wheel in this relationship.
if we get there, I do have a problem of which meme this week, by the way. So those that are watching, this was the original plan. But then I came across this one. And then, and then I came across oh no, this is one I think I missed the boat on. Uh yes, give it to me raw and wriggling.
That one might be a little too inappropriate, but it's great.
When have we ever been appropriate? Where's the one I was thinking of? There's one with Lan
But the I
and
want it now is great because that's what's about to happen.
yeah.
And not without
Oh,
cause.
this is the one I was thinking of. Hold on. This is another one that happens in this segment here too.
Land, here, let me stare at my pipe and just contemplate. Ah,
This section is so fun because it was so meme worthy that I was like looking forward to it.
there are too many great memes for this, which
Yeah.
which is why these two chapters are so great, is there are so many currents running through here, and they on the surface, it's just great fun with, men being cheeky, and then, passing off the disguised Rand to Mistress Harper, and there's not a darn thing he can do about it, and he knows it. And he knows, we see later as he says, this was your plan all along, wasn't it? Was because you knew if you got me in a room with all of you, I'm too weak, as he thinks of it, to do what I should do, which is what he and Lan talked about when Moraine died. Uh, I'm too weak to do what I should do. And so I can't say no to you. Well, but kind of the undercurrent there, the point is you shouldn't be saying no. You have you have professed your love and affection to all three of these women before. They have said we're willing to accept this arrangement, but you're spending all of your time with men. There should be a level of guilt there of I all of them need time with me. I need time with all of them.
Except they all want time in a different way.
Yes.
Avienda had her time, and now she says we're done.
We're
We
we're we're done until I am established in my position as a wise one, and then we do it the right way.
And
You know?
she started that process with the first sister ceremony and
Mhm.
everything. Which why she never does it with men, we don't know. So
That's a
that
good point.
that kind of throws a little chink in that armor, but then Elaine, as we get to, she has her "I want it now" moment. But as most men's complaint about their wives is, oh, they've had a baby and then they're done. Not the
Mhm.
spoiler alert there, but
Well, we know right away because of Min's vision. So she said, so we know it's about to happen.
yeah.
Uh,
So
before
she
we
she
actually get to it.
basically wanted to establish her place in the relationship, and then she's just cool with it.
Hmm.
Avienda already established her place in the relationship. She's cool with it. Min's place in the relationship is the everyday affection.
That's true, because for Elaine, these are for Elaine, her life is in boxes.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in boxes on the shelf, nice and organized, because it has to be, because she has so many responsibilities as a as a title, but then she also has to make that work with her as a person.
And Avienda's is wrapped up in a culture that is actually revolved around everybody kind of spontaneously dying at times. Uh, and and but Min, she's so this is her role, and this is why I think a lot of people like her as a character, especially as guys like her as a character, is there's a reason she's a tomboyish type. She's his best friend.
Mm,
She's his
that's a good
buddy
point.
as well as his lover.
That's a really good point, and that's probably why, certainly for me, she was always been the most attractive one, because I've long thought, even before I got married, that the idea of being friend zoned is silly, or the idea of I can't date him, her slash her, because that's my friend. What shouldn't shouldn't you be friends with the person you're dating? And certainly once you're married, shouldn't that be? I mean, I can understand that not everyone is going to be is dorky and me as me and my wife are, and think that that's my best friend. Not everyone has that same relationship, but you should certainly be friends. And that's what Min is. She isn't just his lover. She quickly becomes his closest friend, because his childhood friends are
Well,
off doing stuff.
to go back to some of the things we've talked about in social episodes. I talk about, at least when you're younger, as boys date older girls because they're done with the bullshit. If you're the nice guy, if
Hmm.
you get the nice guy persona, if you get
Yeah,
the friend zone all the time, older chicks dig it. Older chicks dig that same persona that gets you rejected by the stupid young girls.
right.
Min is older than Rand. Yeah, not a whole lot
I
older.
keep forgetting that. Yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot older, but in this day and age,
And we talk
3
about
years is
maturity
a bigger
levels.
deal than
Yeah.
what we
So,
think about in our day and age.
well, especially at their age, because that means even just a couple of years, that's more than just the time, because you're talking about years of maturity.
Years of maturity and experience, because we get in her own mind before this, when she's Elmendrita and all these things in the
Yes.
tower, we get that she's actually experienced with men, which the implication she's gone through her share of douchebags, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
true.
that's one reason you kind of do date a little older if you're considered that nice guy persona, because they're into that because they've been through the other side of it.
Hmm.
They've seen they've fallen for the stupid young boy tricks. The beard and tattoos is the marker of attraction. Oh wait, that wasn't as cool as I thought it was.
There's
Oh, this
the
guy is treating me well. He opened a door for me. He bought my dinner. He didn't throw a couple chicken nuggets at me after we had sex. He actually, stuck around for the rest of the night. That kind of thing. Yeah, we as normal people, I'm assuming our audience would be more like us. We're like, whoa, that's kind of that. Does that really happen? But yeah, it really happens. I've actually gotten the comment when I bought a girl sushi that we kind of had a thing with, and she's like, oh, usually I get some goldfish thrown at me, and that's it. I'm like, all right, well, don't get too attached here, but it's
but while we're here, I'm not going to be an a-hole. Um,
exactly.
I can't remember who it is. I think it's a Ron White bit. A comedian has a great bit on women say they want a man of mystery, and what they think they mean is, "Ooh, I want someone like James Bond," but what they're going to get is someone who's going to be on Cops.
Yes, that sounds like something Ron White would say.
uh, um,
But that's men, and we I think that's the attraction to us, because well, anybody reading this is going to be tend to be that slightly nerdier guy, so they're
mhm,
probably going to fall into that category where you're actually looking for that kind of thing in a woman. We're not going to get the Elaines of the world because our daddies aren't a lawyer, right?
yeah.
It's we're not going to get the Aviendas of the world because we're not, CrossFit champions, whatever. But well, maybe I could be, but most of my audience aren't. Hate me if you want, Scott. I'm just messing with you guys. I'm as big a nerd as everybody else. Trust me.
Yep.
But the yeah, she represents the ideal for a lot of the target audience of a Robert Jordan novel,
Mhm.
realistically.
All right. And then we rapidly shift gears here before we actually get to all of that, though, because we switched to Nynaeve's point of view. Um,
Which is actually okay. So I hate to beat dead horses, but Sea Folk fucking pissed me off.
yes.
And well, but here's the insight I got out of this though, because I've been studying why women do things and what motivates them, how they uh how reputation and shame and all of these things play so much, and anxiety about the future play so much of a role in their life. And she actually spells it out here, and I didn't notice that the first couple rereads until I've been studying this, and I read it here. They're succumbing to this as Aes Sedai because they're afraid of what their reputation would be if they broke a deal. The problem is a deal in bad faith, and they're not thinking that far.
Mm.
They're only thinking about their reputation. How will I look if this doesn't happen? And you see this in abusive relationships. My husband's cheating on me and he beats me, but I don't tell anybody because I will look bad. And this is actually a true phenomenon. This is why a lot of spouses or girlfriends don't come forward, because how will I look? It's a reflection on me that he's doing all these things.
That's really interesting because while you were talking, one of my just random thought that jumped into my head is, man, I really wish we had Jordan still around and writing, not just for the end of this series, but because there was talk of, spin-offs and additional stories after the story here. And something I would have loved to have seen was like a short story or a novella of Cadsuan as after the fact. I just realized this major spoiler things. I should be careful, but I would love to see more Cadsuan because of how she deals with, and we're going to see it here in a little bit, of Cadsuan dealing with sea folk. We've already seen it some, but we're going to see it more through this book. And it just kind of dawned on me is because Cadsuan is so self-confident, but also has such a solid reputation. That's why she can do what she does, because she doesn't have to worry about harming her reputation because she's a living legend,
Mm-hmm.
literally. She's a living legend. So she's able to act outside the norm in ways that other Aes Sedai are not.
Well, and here's one to put a bug in people's ears, especially for the male reader. So we've brought forward the feminist stupid arguments about why it's problematic or whatever. But this is actually a legitimate thought, not to lend them any credence, but a legitimate thought we should think of as male readers of this. And we talk about Jordan writing women so well, but then who are the women we love? And I would say if you polled everybody, all the males, the with 100 million people that have read this book or whatever,
Something like that's the
so,
estimate I
yeah,
saw.
the
Yeah.
estimate is 100 million people. Probably 75% of them are probably male, just because the fantasy audience goes that way typically. The top three would probably be Min, Cadsuin, and Nynaeve. And I think that's reinforced by the comments we've gotten as
Mhm.
we've been doing this series. Uh, those are also the three most masculine women of the bunch. Min, as we just talked about, is the good buddy. Nynaeve, we've talked about being raised by her father and no mother. And then Cadsuin, you talked about that overt confidence, that
Mm.
competitiveness, that drive that is a typical masculine trait without the cattiness that
Mm.
comes from like the sea folk women or
That's a good segue back to the
or
section we're on, actually, is the cattiness.
the only masculine woman that everybody hates is Elida, but she takes it too far. I used that Trump meme on purpose because it's perfect. I'm gonna have the biggest castle ever to have been built.
It's gonna be the greatest, the best
The greatest,
ever.
the best.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because
that's
it's
a good
very
point.
rare to have a actually narcissistic woman. Typically they're borderline or
Mhm.
bipolar. The same kind of genetics go in a different direction. But when you do, it's a very unattractive thing. And that's what we get with Elida.
That's and that circles us back to where we are here with this scene with Nynaeve and the Windfinders, the Sea Folk in actually in general, because one of them's not even a Windfinder. The one in charge, as Nynaeve is thinking, you can't even see the weaves we're doing. Now, to be quasi fair, the what's her face does have a point um in in pushing, in asking questions. She does. There is a legitimate purpose there for the outsider who knows nothing asking questions that you wouldn't think to ask because you're within the system.
But where you lose
But
your high ground there is turning her upside down and flogging her, which is
yep.
what happened the time before that she had to hide from Lan. Oh, I fell down the stairs. Where have we heard that before? That trope before?
Mm-hmm.
An abusive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan was using real life stuff
And,
to
and then you see the cattiness. I like that phrase that you use, is that personifies what's going on here with the uh not just with Nynaeve and Zaida, but then all of those women and the way they bristle at each other and the way a cat does. That's why it's called cattiness, is you get two unfamiliar cats around and the fur stands up and they start hissing and growling at each other. Um, Even if they're occupying the same space, you know, even if they're not fighting, they're still at each other. And then that escalates at the end of the scene when it is, I can't remember the name, the young Windfinder who comes,
Talon.
Talon.
Yeah.
Okay. She comes running after Nynaeve of, I want to go to the tower, which is, we've already established, is very rare, it's very odd. It's usually seen as a punishment or a sacrifice, that I'm going to go to the tower to placate the White Tower so that they leave us alone. And here's someone who wants to go because of the cattiness, because of the, I'm never going to make it in this world because I'm always going to be my mother's daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and there's already these factions. You talk about how women form coalitions. Well, those coalitions can become factions, which is the way our founding fathers talked about political parties, is faction, and it was a dirty word.
Well, and the another word is hierarchy too, because women do form hierarchies, but they're also really egalitarian. So in this sense, it's we don't want even an inkling of the chance that you might have had an advantage over everyone else. So you have to go through this whole process, but then some. just so it's 100% certain that you didn't have
Mhm.
an advantage over the other woman.
Yep. Yep. Um,
Which is what we get with the woke movement. But
uh,
but let's go back a second, because you
okay.
talked about the one that couldn't channel being there, and I had this thought when I was, because she only asks the Windfinders something once as far as visibly, and I'm wondering if a good sales mistress is actually a sea folk equivalent to a soldem,
Hmm.
that they're actually someone who could have learned to channel but didn't have the spark in them, but they actually begin to see the weaves.
I would think that the wind finders are pretty good at, well, maybe not, because we don't have a good grasp of the numbers, but maybe they aren't very good about finding the teachable, because
Well, there's no test.
from
You
what we
either
can,
you either have the
yes,
spark or you don't. It's the
and
same.
from
It's the same with the wise ones. They don't really have a testing for that. They just pick women that tend to be wise. But if we're tying all these things to the power, like age, longevity, it seems like taverness. It's also
well, I think they must somehow find the teachable simply from using Cerelia as an example. She can barely light a candle. That means that's not someone with the spark, because from what we know, people with the spark have more raw power.
mhm. Yeah,
So,
but the way they teach it, it might bring it out more with the way the
mm,
wind finders are.
but
They might pick you up after you show the spark.
my speculation is that simply by numbers, it doesn't seem like there are that many wind finders. But as we see the Aiel come together, there are a lot of wise ones. Now,
Hmm.
not all of them can channel, but it appears that most of them can channel to some degree.
Hmm.
So I think the wise ones probably do a better job of finding the teachable. But I think you may be right that the wind finders may just find the spark.
Well, but and also you're just thinking about gravitation towards something, right? Well, we got the Sean Chen as an example. If you're testing in a certain way that you find everybody that could end up channeling, you never have that dynamic. But these people gravitate to this thing that says, "Oh man, I'm good with this Adam." So your skill sets tend to be where you go. Like I work with people because I'm kind of that personality.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think my son probably going to be an engineer or something along those lines because that's kind of his personality. You just gravitate towards where your internal set goes. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone who can ultimately see that kind of thing has an innate sense for being a good sales mistress.
Oh, I just lost my train of thought. I was flipping through here.
You were further.
Oh yeah, here we are with Talon coming up and telling Ninety if she wants to go to the
Mhm.
tower. Oh yeah, and then this is the part where to your point about the extra work, and um and Nynaeve is actually a little surprised that, wait, you'll miss your mother, because they can't act like mother and daughter.
Mhm.
And Talana is, what, do
Not
I
only
look
can they not
unnatural?
act like it, they have to act the reverse.
The reverse, yeah.
And then
Um,
Nynaeve skirting around the my novice training. Uh,
yes, my novice training. Yes.
you really
Well,
don't want to hear about that. No, you don't. You don't want to hear that it's nothing except the boat ride home from Faldara to the White
mhm.
Tower, pretty much.
All right. So where do we want to jump to next? So we go all that.
Nynaeve goes back to her room and Rand is there.
Mhm.
And
Well, first we have some naughty talk, but and then Rand
oh yeah,
shows
that was actually a really good moment though, because
the
it
yeah.
puts you in her mind and exactly how important it is for women to have that in their life. And
And
this is one of
because
the problems with Aes Sedai is they deny that.
yes,
And
yes.
it's not only with the we're removing the power from the world by not having babies, but you're also lessening yourself as a person
Hmm.
by not allowing this thing into your life that is call it chemical or supernatural, but it actually love for somebody and somebody that you
Yes.
depend on.
And you there's that, well, that's something I hadn't really considered before. We haven't seen we never saw a lot of it, but we did get a few scenes with Moiraine and Lan by themselves, and they had a very similar relationship to Nynaeve and Lan, but because there was never a romantic component, it was more of uh a boss and subordinate, a boss and right hand man kind of relationship. And they did
But the kind of
have.
right hand man that will tell you in private when you're out of line, that kind
Mhm.
of right hand man.
So Lan still offers that to Nynaeve when it comes to the professional world, but now you have this added element of personal help, personal development for Nynaeve, because now this is more than just, you know, uh, the scene that jumps into my mind, because we're talking about Nynaeve, is when Nynaeve sneaks up on them while Moiraine and Lan are talking in the Eye of the World, and you see that professional relationship, and you see that there is much more of a familiarity and a give and take than what we had seen otherwise, because they're alone or they think they're alone.
Mm-hmm.
So Lan still gives that to Nynaeve, but he's also giving her something else.
Well, but it gives her something, as it gives her perspective, because old Nynaeve without Lan would have gone through that exact same interaction with the Seafolt and just blown up on everybody in her path afterwards. Where she comes across Lan and she's like, you know what? There was this better time I had, and it was yesterday morning when you wouldn't let me leave the room. And
Mhm.
yeah, we go giggity, 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 but at the same time, it's more than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is
It, it
it it
was
is.
it was I was at home, I was comfortable. I'm not dealing with all this bullshit.
Why do women want to cuddle afterwards?
Yeah.
There's a reason. There is both a there's a biochemical reason. I'll let you know, you can go into the witchcraft if you want. There's a reason why they want to do that. It's not just
All
because
you
they're being
all you need
girly.
to look up is oxytocin.
There you go. And that's what's going on here. And that's what Land gives, because he's giving her more than just he's thereafter too. And she needs that. She needs, in order to be a more complete person, to your point, to not just blow up on everyone like she used to do, she needs to have that arm that she can grab hold of and not just vent, but then be comforted.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the hardest part of being a husband or even a boyfriend or whatever, is knowing, because we want to fix. As I said, that's why Lan and Perrin are Rand's arms, because men want to do things. That's why that scene is one of my favorite scenes in The Dragon Reborn, of Perrin in the blacksmith shop in Tyr, because that's so that that perfectly illustrates his archetype as the archetype of the man who wants to get things done.
Well, I think a good word is grounding. Grounding, because okay, so let's look at stereotypical women, and again, overlapping bell curves, all this stupid shit. But women are mothers, right? And what do you do as a mother, especially in the first couple years of a child's development? We're very vulnerable as children, as human beings, right? We're not a gazelle that walks funny for about 10 minutes and then is able to run. You control the environment around your child to prevent bad things from happening. So the natural state of a woman is to be danger averse, to be conflict averse, to look for the bad everywhere around you. And what is the role of the man in that spot? To take that away from her. And that's what Lan did right here. She went into his arms and she felt comfortable and safe. The role of the man is to make her feel safe. Now, the reverse side of that, what is a man but seeking danger, going out for the hunt, fighting your rivals, doing all of these things that are inherently are dangerous. That's why we die young. That's why we develop in the way we do. Our hearts grow faster, our lungs grow bigger, all of these things, because we are made for danger. But
I loved
what
I
happens
loved
when you
the
get with a woman and you have a child? Your testosterone drops. Like
your biological job is done.
no, it comes back up at a certain point, but immediately then all the things that cause you to seek danger drop because you need to stay and be grounded with your family. So we work in both ways. We make them feel comfortable and safe, and they cause us to become safer.
I loved the way you phrased it months back. I don't even remember what we were talking about. And I don't, did you get this from somewhere or was this a thought of yours? Is that men are designed to be fathers, women are designed to be grandmothers?
It thought of mine from several sources kind of put together into one thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Men
I,
men are fathers, women are grandparents,
mhm.
grandmothers. Yeah.
And if you had a good relationship, I mean, you talk about your farmer Pollock grandfather all the time and getting run
Mhm.
over by a tractor and walking back to the house and saying, well, I
At
guess I got
80 at 80 something years old.
yeah. So and that's
It's puking up a pint of blood and saying, "Mom, I think I need to go to the hospital."
if your grandpa lives long enough and you have are lucky enough to have a good relationship with him as a child, is that's it is a fatherly like relationship. Grandmothers are very different from mothers.
Mhm.
When you talk about grandparents spoiling, that is more often a grandmother thing.
Oh,
Um,
I can remember so many times I'll be I would be out in the garden, which is Southern Pollock garden is like an acre of vegetables. It's not like a little thing clearing out all the weeds and Granny coming out, come in for some cookies, and I'd be inside eating cookies and milk, and Grandpa would come in. Why is he inside? He should be out there working still. It's only 99 degrees.
yep. Yeah, we haven't
Yeah,
broken 100 yet.
yeah. I'm paying him $20 for the day, and
So
you're letting him come in and eat cookies on my dime.
and 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 for me, it was so Paul was the one who would take us down to the pond and teach us how to fish. Ma was the one who wanted to make sure, oh, it's real hot out here. Let me make you a big jug full of ice water. No, no, don't go outside. You need a hat. Here, let's put a hat on you because it's 105 degrees outside. And make sure they stay in the shade. Make sure they stay under the tree while they're down at the pond. And I think I've talked about this before, but the reason I have such weird baseball fandoms is because of my grandfather, because he had Ted Williams' book, the what is it, the Science of Hitting, and he was the one he taught me. He talked to me about hitting. He was, and it was in a different kind of way than a father because he didn't as much have to worry about the discipline. It was more of a pure kind of teacher mentor kind of role. And that's the role they fill is it's a continuation of their fatherly role, but just with more emphasis on certain parts.
Mhm.
All right,
Uh,
back to the book here, because there's a
well,
great
my main point with
segue.
Nynaeve and Land, though, was these things I'm talking about. Yes, they come from our paternal and maternal instincts, but they don't just turn on and off.
Mm-hmm.
They're there. and,
And
and,
there's a great segue here on page 307 where Rand comes back into the scene. So there's a great segue here because this is illustrating that point wonderfully, I think, when Rand comes into the room with Mistress Harper. So down at the bottom of page 307. Tired as Nynaeve was, embracing the source was almost beyond her, but she managed it in a flash, spurred by thoughts of assassins and the light knew what. Lan must have caught some change in her face, because he took a step toward the wordy fellow. He did not touch his sword, but suddenly his whole stance seemed as if the blade was already drawn. And the reason this is so important and interesting and jumps out at me is, remember, Lan is not bonded to Nynaeve. He does not have his warder magic here. He is picking up purely on his wife's non-verbals here. And they are
yeah,
they are so connected that he immediately snaps into protection mode.
my only rebuttal to that comment would be we're getting these from her perspective, and I'm sorry, Nynaeve, not everything's about you. He also just is confronted with this warty fellow that's in your room, And as a guy myself, that would already trigger
Hmm.
the step
No,
in between to
yeah,
create some space. And
but he's in, yeah, he steps in between. He's not just stepping up in between his wife and this weird stranger. He's assuming almost a martial
well,
stance.
but that's what I'm saying. That would have been automatic without any cue.
But
For me, it would have been the situation, not her.
I think it's on purpose on Jordan's part here that I think it's important to note that he automatically steps into warder mode, but you need to remember he's not technically her warder yet.
Mhm.
So he doesn't have that feeling that he would have had if Moraine had seen, if it had been Moraine he was standing here talking to and this happened, he would have gotten that feeling, which would have helped spark his warrior
Well,
senses.
I can't speak to Jordan's intentions here, but I'm saying that's a protective nature in general to
Mhm.
me, not necessarily. And I think Nynaeve's attaching intent to it.
Well, but I
This
think there
this
is
is this
intent
is
there.
well, there is, but it's different than what she's thinking. It's not, I gave this signal, I had this feeling, and he did this. It's, I'm in this situation, and this could be dangerous for my wife. There, no bond needed, no cue from her
No,
needed
but I think that's the point is this is more than just
to
warder
her,
protectiveness
to her.
because it's
Yeah,
Nynaeve. It's not
yeah.
Moiraine. It's not Myril. It's because it's Nynaeve. There is an extra element there, which which is what Nynaeve needs. This is kind of bookending, kind of where it opened when she met up with Land. Is this is why Nynaeve becomes this is this is why she has such a great character arc, because you look at who she was in the eye of the world and you look at who she is now, and it has changed because she needed Lan to help complete her. This is why she isn't a traditional Aes Sedai, because it's rumored that some Greens marry their warder or maybe warders. We don't know how that works. Let's not
Again,
delve
he
into it
was
too much.
already more progressive than the progressives wanted to be,
Exactly.
but
So it's rumored that that happens, but it isn't known. And this is I think Nynaeve and Lan are really going to be trendsetters here because this isn't a private thing. It's going to quickly be known publicly that they are married.
and this
And
is
that's
where
a big
Jordan's
deal.
problematic, because Nynaeve's progression is part of her. He earned it, but part of her accepting within herself that she needed a safe space. She needed a place to go when she was having trouble commanding the situation.
And he's problematic because you're a dingleberry and you're ignoring the clear parallel in this very chapter, which is Rand and Min.
Mm-hmm.
Rand needs Min. And
Mm-hmm.
we're going to see what happens later when we're
Well,
a few books down the road when Min is
we
threatened. We're
we
going to
don't
see
have to
what
go
happens.
that far, because Lan is not dead
Mm,
because he has
mm.
Nynaeve.
We're about to
Because
just see
men
that.
need meaning, right? And Nynaeve is his meaning.
Um, where is it?
Myril
Okay.
would never have kept him alive. She has kept warders alive, but he is not any warder. I think the will of the warder actually determines how far they go. And she has kept, not to knock on her warders, but slightly weaker minded people alive. Whereas he would have been so dead set on being dead
Mhm,
that the
mhm.
only thing that kept him alive was Nynaeve.
I freaking hate this. This isn't just because I am Mr. Conservative in this podcast. It ruins their story when they've already knocked up at the end of season one. It matters that there is that tension, that sexual tension, that unrequited love, because it grows and
Mm-hmm.
because they need way more than just the sexual, way more than just the romantic. Both of them need it. And that's all right. So flip over to 308 down at the bottom. And this is the growing Rand still has to do that we're going to see over the next few books is all right. So when Mistress Harper leaves, and I love the I don't want to completely skip over the way Rand clues Nynaeve in here while Mistress
Oh
Harper is
yeah, yeah.
still
I wanted to
here
mention
is
that
the
too. Yeah.
Mistress Thane said you would want to see me right away. Women's circle business, she said. Something about Sid being an a-hole. I inserted that last part there, but it's implied.
Yeah, it's implied. Yeah.
It's implied. Yes, she said slowly, staring at the fellow. Seeing anything but that awful wart was difficult, but she was certain she had never laid eyes on him before. Um, so I like his cleverness. I like her reaction. It's a fun scene. But then I like the way he just kind of reflexively ignores Nynaeve and talks to Lan here because he doesn't get it. And this is part of the not getting it is, I see you didn't take your own advice, Rand said to Lan, just as if she were not there. But why do you let her pretend to be Aes Sedai? Even if the real Aes Sedai let her, she can get hurt. Because she is Aes Sedai, sheep herder, Lan replied quietly. And and he doesn't say it here, but I kind of read something he said before about Lan, which is when he talks quietly, it's like the quiet of a blade being unsheathed. There's a seriousness here, and you just insulted his wife, and he's literally the most dangerous person on the planet.
Not only did he just insult his wife, he made an absolutely valid point, because it was Lan's advice to not be near the ones you love.
And so then what does Lan say? And he does make a valid point, and the reason he doesn't just backhand him for insulting his wife is because, oh, you stupid season 1 and never giving us the mentor relationship. Lan has been Rand's mentor since the first book. All right. You've got like a year and a half of in-world time that has passed here, something like that. Rand is still that mentor. He still has that attachment. Go back to the Great Hunt and him coaching Rand on what to do when he goes before the Amarillan seat and coaching him like a borderlander. Any other man, he might have just backhanded here, but Rand is his mentee and he needs a lesson here. And this is the lesson Lan is going to give him, that it still takes a few books for Rand to learn, which is, well, first he says, because she is Aes Sedai's sheep herder. As for the other ellipses, sometimes she is stronger than you. Did you take it? There's a lot being said in those two very short sentences by someone who doesn't talk a lot here.
So to add to the gravity of the situation, the paragraph before that, Lan never leaves his defensive stance. So he's ready. He's ready to attack Rand at any point. He doesn't backhand him, but he's ready to kill him if need be.
I don't think he'd kill him because he has more control and he knows how important Rand is. But
if Rand went after Nynaeve, I think he would have killed him.
He might have reflexively, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, because remember, hesitating in a life and death fight is death for you, and he knows that. He's Lan. He's
taught that to Rand.
He taught that to Rand. Yeah, he would have reflexively done the deed, no matter who Rand is, because he loves Nynaeve.
All right, but then the response to that is equally, if not more important, because it's Rand and he's the main character here.
Yeah, it's the slap back. It's the backhand. It's the gauntlet back to the gauntlet that was slapped in your face.
I don't think Rand is backhanding here. I think this is just where he is in his own mind.
Because Lan says she's stronger than you. The wording is important here.
Yes.
Rand says sometimes you're too weak
to do what you should do.
And he's saying, in essence, he's saying Lan is too weak as well.
I don't think I don't know that he's saying that, because we have seen for so long, because of the list in his own mind. So think back to when Moiraine dies and he's in there reciting the list in that shack of all the women that have died because of him. And to him, he's weak because he should be able to keep these women out of harm's way.
But in direct response to Lan, yeah, he thinks in his own mind he was too weak, but he's also saying it to Lan as well.
That's true. That's how he sees this situation. And Lan, in his own way, is trying to tell him, it's not that you're weak, it's that she's strong, so stop fighting it.
Yeah, but if the paragraphs were flipped around, I would say that was correct. but because they're in the order that they are, Rand is not. He's saying his own mind about himself,
but he's talking about both of them.
But he's talking about both of them because they're both talking in euphemisms right now. They're both talking just thoughts out loud, not directly to each other. So everything they say is implied about both of them.
Yeah, as Nynaeve says here on page 3, what are you two blathering about? She said sharply. Just things men talk about, Lan replied. You wouldn't understand, Rand said. And that's true. You wouldn't understand because you're a woman and you don't understand these things. And so I think that strengthens your point, and I lean towards more you're right about that, is that this is men communicating in their own way, and Lan understands that. He also understands that Rand isn't ready for this lesson yet, that this is the best that he can do right now, is to just, sometimes she is stronger than you. Leave it at that. Rand's going to have to learn on his, it's back to fathers and mothers. Mothers freak out when the kid's doing something dumb. And the dad is, I think this is another comedian's bit. I think it's who's the here's your sign guy? Billingval.
Yeah.
I think it's Billingval who has the kid going for the light socket with the penny.
No, here's your sign was the one who started all that.
Jeff Foxworthy.
Jeff Foxworthy, yeah.
No, Ingval is the here's your sign. Jeff Foxworthy, you might be a redneck. I'm trying to remember who has the bit about. Wait. Oh no, I think it may be a Christopher Titus bit about this is how dads are. Is mobs freak out if the kid is walking towards the light sock with a penny in his hand, and dads are like, wait, watch, just watch, because he's done that, because the dad did that when he was a kid, and he remembers getting the hell shocked out of him. He knows it's not going to kill him, and he knows he's going to learn, but you're not going to learn unless you do it.
I've got a recent example of this. I actually made a mistake as a father. We were at Canyon Lake and we were walking along one of the cliff edges that goes to the water. And there were these kids jumping off one of the cliffs into the water. And from the angle I was at when I was walking by, I saw the rocks under the water where you couldn't see it from looking down. And this kid missed the rocks by like that much with his backside. That would have been a broken back. And because it was probably about a 15-foot drop. And
which doesn't sound like a lot unless it's vertical.
Unless it's vertical and you hit spine straight down, right? That's being paralyzed. That's the difference between having a good life and being in a wheelchair the rest of your life. And Ben was like, I should jump off too. And I said, no, he was like this far from the rocks. Don't do that. And what I should have done, I said, don't do that. I did the mom thing. I was stupid. What I should have done is I should have done great. And I should have jumped in the water, swam around there and sat on the rock and said, jump over me. That would have been the correct move because he would have not known I was protecting him at the time. I would have eliminated the thing that could have killed him while letting him be adventurous. And he would have never known. He would have thought he was cliff diving with no.
Well, that's where the penny and the light socket works as an illustration, because I mean, I remember doing that. I don't know if you remember doing it, but I've been electrocuted a number of times, and it's not going to kill you, but it's going to hurt.
Yeah, it's like peeing on the the electric fence. Dad's going.
I got popped by an electric fence once, and it wasn't like a little residential dog one. It was something that was meant to keep cattle out, and it hurt.
Well, because it must have been your brother, or you would have brought it up now. But one of you two convinced me to grab one.
I don't remember that. So it
must have been your brother. Yeah.
He's evil.
Yeah.
All right. So this is
not on.
This is really dumb, and this is 80s fashion. I don't know why this existed, but remember we used to have like shorts and pants that had like hooks on them, like keychain type things. And so I had these shorts that for some stupid reason had this metal hook on it. I don't know what it was intended to hook, but my brother hooked it on.
Remember that? So.
My brother hooked it onto a hot wire. And so I was stuck because I didn't want to unhook it because it hurt like hell to grab it and unhook it. And it's a lot quicker to snap a hook on than to unhook it. I still remember that, and I still yell at him about that when I remember it because it was not fun, but it's a guy thing. All right. Speaking of guy things.
Yeah, we got to kind of move through this. I don't remember when we started. What, 2:45? So about 45 minutes ago.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. So yeah, there's some more stuff in here, but we can get to it. Um, all right. So he explains what's going on with the Turin grill, which lets you touch the song grill, and about the all right. So just jumping to the end of this chapter, since we're talking about Land and Nynaeve and Rand and men and women, I do like the Nynaeve gets mildly annoyed here, which I like that uh I mean, Lan knows probably as much as you can about the One Power for someone who can't actually channel because he's been a warder for 20 years. Um, and before that, he knew at least a little bit just simply being a borderlander. And knowing and thus having a more familiar relationship with Aes Sedai than normal people would. Um, all right, so this is 312 on the paperback at the end of the chapter. After Rand has explained his plan, kind of really before Nynaeve can even comment on it, she gets annoyed by this. But again, this is men being men. M-E-N, not M-I-N. We'll get to that in a second. If it could be done, wouldn't they have done it in the Age of Legends? Lan said quietly. And again, he's used this phraseology before. Quiet the way steel sliding from a scabbard was quiet. You said once that I could get her hurt. It seemed impossible his voice could grow any harder, but it did. You could kill her, sheep herder, and his tone made clear that he would not allow that. Rand
Well,
meant
which lends credence to my statement that he would have killed Rand had Rand threatened Nynaeve. It actually pretty much proves my statement.
Rand. There's so many layers here. This is why Jordan's writing is so good because he is almost always doing more than one thing in a scene. Rand met Lan's cold blue stare with one just as cold. That sentence in and of itself is a big deal because Rand or Lan is 40 something years old, we think at this point, right?
Yeah, mid-40s. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I looked it up one of the episodes, but it was mid-40s.
he was in his early 20s during the Aiel War, and then he was bonded, and it's been about 20 years since then.
He was 25 in New Spring. So
Okay.
20 years to finding Rand and then another couple years here. So 47, 48. Yeah.
All right. After just a year and a half from being outside of his little bubble of rural idyllicism, Rand is already as hard as Lan. That tells you a lot about what he's been through. That Lan's stare is this hard because of 45 plus years of experience here. Rand has held all of that condensed into. Why do Tabatas suck? Because it's taking the result of 20 to 30 minutes of a jog and smushing it into 4 minutes, and it sucks. That's what Rand's been through here. I don't know why they didn't. I don't care why. It has to be tried. And now we get extra layers here. Nynaeve bit her lower lip. She supposed Rand made this a public occasion, shifting from public to private, deciding which was which made her dizzy sometimes, but she did not care that Lan had spoken out of turn. he was bad that way in any case, but she liked an outspoken man. That's kind of funny because she doesn't really. She likes Lan being. She likes this outspoken man.
It's the meme where the chubby guy turns around the corner and says, "Hey, good looking," and the girl goes, "Oh, creep." But then the Rob Lowe looking guy says, "Hey, good looking," and she's like, "Oh, how are you?
You're so nice.
You're so nice."
She needed to think not about her decision. She had made that. About how to implement it. Rand might not like it. Lan certainly would not. Well, men always wanted their own way. Sometimes you just had to teach them they could not always have it. Again, back to where this scene kind of started. Sometimes she is stronger than you. And this is why it works, because and this is why Jordan wrote People so well. Nynaeve's right, but she's also wrong,
Mm-hmm.
because she, yeah, sometimes men can't have it the way they want it. It shouldn't be that way. But then sometimes women can't either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we already saw that just within this own scene of Lan being the one to say, no, I'm going to hide all your clothes and not let you outside because you need a minute. You need a minute of, alone time with your husband. You need a minute of let the world be the world and let us have quality time together. All right. So you were wrong then and he was right. And Lan's a little bit wrong here, but you're a little bit wrong here too. That's why it doesn't exactly work out all to Nynaeve's plan. But she does need to be the one to help balance this situation, especially since Lan and Rand are acting like two peacocks who are armed to the teeth.
Yeah. It's kind of the monkey dance. It's the not as base as you would find in a bar, but they are doing everything up to the edge of conflict. And with these two, it's the cold hard stare, it's the anger. But where Lan has the slightly higher ground here, well, they both have high ground because Rand actually has a good idea, a virtuous idea, something that could save half the world's channeling population,
Which
realistically,
thus saves the whole world.
which thus saves the whole world.
Yeah.
But Lan has the higher ground of this is my wife, and this is the person I care about. But that also is where Lan and Rand are different right now, because Lan pre Nynaeve would have been Rand right now.
It's a good point. Yeah.
And that's where again Min comes in, Avienda comes in, Elaine comes in, Cadsuin comes in, all of these women that Rand needs in his life to ground him, where Lan found that already.
We saw a long time ago from Moraine's perspective that if I think you're turning to the dark, I will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it takes. And Lan was on her side. Lan was with that. Now it's more about Nynaeve.
Yeah, post Moiraine, Lan, had Nynaeve never been in the picture or had this relationship with him, would be right at Rand's side, and they'd be marching to the Blight right now, or at least the first moment they were able to. He would not have left to go to Myril. He would have said, "You know what? This is going to suck for her, but we're both dying. Let's go, buddy.
Yep.
We're going to die anyways. We might as well go out killing the Dark
Yep.
One."
Yep. All right. So that wraps up that chapter. That is one chapter. I wanted to get through a lot more than that. So,
well, yeah, let's get to Elaine and Rand. We get this from her perspective, right?
yes, we get the chapter 12 is from Elaine's perspective, and we've already kind of teased it a lot, and we've talked a lot about the politics here. So I don't know that the opening of this is nearly as important as when we finally get to the point of the funness.
My favorite part isn't the they're getting it on; it's the everybody that's bonded with them is stuck with it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to your meme here. So, man, this is gonna get us derailed, but I love this. Okay, so it opens up with Elaine saying, "Don't tell him about any of these scary. Don't tell him about how stupid I've been lately, because then he'll think with the hairs on his chest and want to protect me." Well, you need protecting, dummy. But
Yeah.
luckily for us, you have Birgitte to take care of that, and she doesn't have hair on her chest. She has a nice rack, but still same principle. Um, but I love the. I don't tell him things he doesn't need to know. Min said. You lie to him? Suspicion larded Avienda's tone. Of course not, Min replied sharply, glaring right back. Unless it's necessary. Avienda chuckled, then looked startled that she had, and put on a stony face. this is one of, to me, one of the failings of the series, and I wish we'd had more time, is the, in much the same way that we've griped about how the three boys too quickly separated and then don't come back together. Same thing with the three girls. Uh, what was that?
What did I just do?
You probably just opened an ad there. There we go.
Scientifically proven that women are attracted to men. They get an attractiveness, men are get an attractiveness boost if they are desired by other women. Elaine knows that Min has had Rand's attention. Avienda has had, she's got details of how Avienda has had Rand's attention. She will not be
Point.
denied to be equal to the other women in the
That's
life.
good. I want it now.
I want
Ron,
it
Ron,
now. Yeah, the best thing you can do as a single guy is show up with women to the bar. Because
well, you mentioned that, like,
other
sure,
than be
because
tall and good looking, other than those two things,
yes,
show up with women to the bar.
uh, um, we were not good with the ladies, to put it mildly, when we were young, and you made that point after you got married. Of, I have never gotten so much attention from ladies than when I had this on.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case.
Yep, yep, yep. Okay, so I derailed myself just because of the fun. Okay, so let's get to the
But you
point
were
where she.
talking about her emphatic nature of the whole situation. That it's actually not far fetched from what happens in real life.
Yeah. Um, I do, or oh yeah, so I do wish we would have gotten more with these three girls together, because um there are, much like the other triads that we have of the three guys, they work so well together because we got a pretty good establishment of them as a group of friends. And it's annoying that we didn't get more of it. But then same thing with the girls is Egwene, Nynaeve, Elaine, once they went to the tower and they became a group of friends, their adventure together, their story together strengthened them together and individually. And it's a little frustrating to me that up until literally the very end of the series, we don't get another point of the three of these girls together after this. And I really think that was a huge missed opportunity on Jordan's part to somehow bring these three back together, because we get a lot of Elaine and Avienda together, which makes sense, and that's why they just became first sisters. But there really is a great moment here with the three lovers together trying to figure each other out, because Elaine and Avienda have kind of figured each other out. Not kind of. I mean, they have, because they went through the first sister process.
Mm-hmm.
But Elaine and Min had kind of already figured each other out beforehand because of the time they'd spent together in and out of the White Tower. And I really wish we had gotten more of Min and Avienda together, and then the three of them together. Um,
Which,
because it
because they're kind of hybrid characters, it would have been nice to actually have a fight between Min and Avienda.
and yeah, because you get the hints of that here with Avienda kind of chuckling and then going, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be severe. I'm still trying to I still don't know if I like you, darn it.
Yeah,
But
but
she
not in a
reflexively
way
kind
that
of
the
likes
the
her.
winner got dominance or any of these
Yes.
things, but in a way that they start fighting and then into it they're just like, what are we doing? This is silly. He's a man. He's not going to pull every, or Elaine just being like, hey, you two silly. Just kind of like a stalemate that ends with
Well, and you get a little bit of that with Elaine and Min. Or, remember way back, um, when when Elaine first mentions to Avienda that there's a third girl here, and Avienda doesn't know Min yet. So this is back in Solidar, and she's like, "Who is this?" And Elaine tries to reassure her, and then later she does it some more of, "He's okay. He's being looked after by Min." Avienda needed that moment, needed more than just what we have here to say, I can relax a little bit because so my wife has a friend who's super extroverted. And so when she's off on her own, I worry because she's a tiny little person off on her own in the big ugly scary world, and she's also super introverted. When she's with her best friend, I don't worry as much because okay, you've got her to lean on. You've got her to help you navigate the world, which is ugly and scary. So I don't worry quite as much. And that's kind of what Elaine was saying to Avienda is, yes, Rand has all these issues. He has all these problems. He has all these things he's facing, but he's got Min. She'll help him. I really feel like we needed more with Avienda and Min together so that Avienda could say, okay, you're right. I trust Min to help him here. And really she just gets enough to say, okay, I don't really know you. We're not first sisters yet, but I'm comfortable sharing him with you. But let's move along to the meme. So, all right, which page do we get to the meme here? All right, so page 317 is
Yeah, that's
where
where I was at, yeah.
where it starts, which I think is important and fun. Of "Are you ready?" is Elaine. Her voice was strong, as her voice was not as strong as she could have hoped, but at least it did not tremble. And this scene is from Elaine's point of view. Of course, Avienda said, but she had to swallow first. I'm ready, Min said faintly. So I like again, they're all strong women, they're all putting on a strong face, but it was a very awkward and difficult situation. And you add to that, all right, so I'm not good at talking people. I don't like talking to people, but I can do it if I'm one-on-one or like one-on-two. I hate trying to talk to people when there are other people around. It just automatically makes me feel more self-conscious. So add to the awkwardness of the situation, there are going to be two outsiders in the middle of this conversation because we're barging into Nynaeve and Lan's room here.
Yeah, Lan going.
And they have to know that Nynaeve is going to be judgy here because they've been around Nynaeve enough to know how she's going to react to this.
Yeah, the only thing that would have been worse is if Egwene was part of this because she would have grown up with Nynaeve. The only benefit is that these are all people that have known her through other means, realistically.
Yes, yes. At least they aren't strangers. At least it's someone we're close to.
Yeah, except really realistically, the interaction of Min and Nynaeve is very minimal as well, even with the interaction in the tower. Because that was mostly Egwene and Elaine.
But they don't really have much choice here because all right, so at the bottom of page 318, they're not wrong here, and this is why Rand needs Min, M-I-N, and why he needs all of them, and where he's wrong and where he should have a little bit of guilt in how he's dealing with this is it is past time to be gone, Min, Rand said. Elaine's jaw dropped. You think you can just go without even speaking to me? To us, she managed. Min and Avienda breathed at almost the same instant and gave one another startled looks. Hastily, they unfolded their arms. For an instant, despite the disparity in just about everything about them, they had been almost mirror images of womanly disgust. And again, this is why Jordan is so good at writing in general and writing the sexes in particular, because no one is a man boss. No one is a girl boss. It's just people trying to navigate the world, and they're right and they're wrong, and sometimes they're right and wrong at the same time. Because Rand is kind of right here, going back to the conversation that he and Lan were having about.
Well, Lan continues it in the next page saying he is right on one thing.
Yes. So Rand and Lan, they want to help. They want to protect the women they love. But as Lan says, and Rand still hasn't quite figured out, Sometimes she is stronger than you. Uh, what Lan is saying with fewer words there, because he's not a talker, is what Tom tells Matt back in, is it Fires of Heaven? It's back in Lords of Chaos, I think it is. When Matt goes into Saladar and Tom has that conversation with you with
Mhm.
Matt of, listen, stop thinking that you're going to protect her from the world and start thinking, how can I help her achieve not just the things she wants to achieve, but the things she needs to achieve. And that's Tom. That is why Tom is so important, and where Moraine was so wrong in separating Tom from Rand, because Rand really needed that. And and that's where Matt becomes a more complete person, is because he has Tom there to give him that advice.
Well, yeah, well, I think that's I think you just touched on something that's key. Uh we've got the three parallel storylines, and this is where I think Scott was a little wrong, that Perrin was taking up too much of the audience attention. Is
Mm-hmm.
I think he intended Perrin, Rand, and Matt to all have kind of an equal role in this, as like a tripod, which is why in the prologue to the Great Hunt, it was so important that Balzamon put the three of them up there. One falls, they all fall, right? And we just talked in depth about Rand and Lan. It's obvious Perrin and Elias, and Tom is Matt's anchor.
Yeah.
And yeah, he helps Rand a lot in the beginning, but that was more his actual affection that he was developing towards Moiraine than it was his affection to Rand. And but he does form an affection with Matt.
Well, initially it was about Owen.
Yeah.
His Rand
Yeah,
was the
initially
surrogate
it
for
was
Owen.
revenge, but
Mm-hmm.
just as with Matt, he's going with the wind and he finds his path.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of finds something he had been lacking for so long, ever since Owen, in Matt, in that storyline. And it was it's so organic and it fits so well because it was thrust on him. He didn't seek it.
Make a note about Tom in spoilers, because that's actually a really good point about something that didn't work for me as a younger reader and works more now, about Tom and Tom's story arc. All right. So then the three girls tell Rand, gang up on Rand of, how dare
Yeah,
you?
that's what
Uh,
we never got. We never got him ganging up on Rand. That would have been more fun.
but anyway, um, uh, I, all right, so I'm getting excited. I like how Rand is, so at the bottom of page 318, top of 319, Elaine just gives this, Elaine for a moment breaks, it's kind of like breaking the fourth wall, is that Elaine doesn't do that. She is Elaine. She is Aes Sedai. She is the daughter heir. She is now the claimant to the throne, would be queen. And she's really breaking the fourth wall. She's really putting herself out there, and Rand's not appreciating that. And that's why I think he kind of gets slapped down here, and needs to be, because after that very raw personal moment here, and then Rand just goes back to all business of, there are these people trying to kill me, don't trust the Ashaman except for maybe these few people. And then uh uh all right, so then halfway down 319, um Lan is still being Land, warning Nynaeve here about, yep, he is right about one thing, anyone near him is in danger, which he's there's a little bit of that is for Elaine, Avenda, and Min, but he's mostly talking to Nynaeve there, because about what all they were talking about before the girls showed up
Mm-hmm.
here. To my first sister and I fear danger, Avienda demanded, planting her fists on her hips. Her shawl slipped from her shoulders and fell to the floor, but she was so intent that she seemed unaware of the loss. This man has tow to us on Alien, or however the hell you pronounce that, and we to him. It must be worked out. Min spread her hands. I don't know what anybody's toes have to do with anything, or feet either, but I'm not going anywhere until you talk to them, Rand. She affected not to notice Avienda's outraged glare. I have to think that was on purpose because she's been around Aiel enough to know about Giotto, and she's just being snarky. She's just poking Avienda because they're trying to feel each other up. I mean, out. Um,
Let's take a quick break,
okay.
and then we'll close out this chapter. I think. I don't
Okay.
think we're gonna get to Matt today.
Aw.
Well, we might. We're gonna have some short stuff, short episodes here in the near future. So maybe we'll
Yeah.
just go long today. All right, give me just a second.
All right. So, how much of what Rand is doing here do you think is reflexive and how much is on purpose? Because again, Elaine and Min and Avienda try to redirect Rand back to the point of why they're here, and he's still just all business. Is, the Black Tower, the White Tower, this is what's going on. Don't trust these people. Don't and then who is it who says it? Elaine is, it won't do, Rand. Elaine tightened her hands on her skirts to keep herself from shaking a finger. She should have shook a finger because he's kind of being a dealberry. None of that matters a hair. Not now. You and Avienda and Min and I are what we need to talk about, and we will. We all will, Randall Thor, and you are not leaving the palace until we do. So after several pages here of circling, running in circles, Elaine is making, again, this is where Rand needs these women. All of them is Rand or Elaine, the queen, the politician, is focus. This is what we came here to talk about. And by golly, we're going to do it. And you're not going anywhere until we're done because we have to take care of this thing. And it just happens to be that this thing we need to take care of is your thing. But I digress.
Well, I like Nynaeve's reaction. You're worse than a lecher. Apologize now.
Yep.
Which is true. Actually, sleeping with 3 girls is bad enough without them knowing or whatever, and not being honest about it. But actually professing love, that is something bigger, because you're implying the rest of your life, or at least a long-term type thing.
Yes.
You're implying I will take care of you when you have my babies and all of these other things.
That is, I mean, we could go way down a rabbit hole here to your point of that is worse, but it shouldn't be, because it would actually be better if he was just sleeping around. And yet somehow, in Nynaeve's mind, I think this is true, in her traditional mind, is, as you say, quoting her, you're worse than a lecher. Well, wait a minute. Him saying out loud that this isn't just me getting my rocks off, I actually love all 3 of you, and yet in Nynaeve's mind, no, that's worse. Why? But it is, to her point, from her perspective, it is worse, but there is an element of but why there.
Yeah, and anybody who's listened to our debates on the religious stage or the monogamy stage or whatever would know that I agree with that he can, but also in their culture, it's got to be the greatest shock ever.
Even though, as he says here at the top of 321, is he's talking about the whole thing here. I love you, Elaine. Without a pause, he went on, words rushing out of him, water from a burst dam. And his face was a stone wall. Again, Jordan doing more than one thing here. Here he is, just bursting out of him like a broken dam. And yet, so Jordan is telling you, this is real. This is finally Rand being real. He's not avoiding the topic anymore, but his face is still a stone wall because this man is broken.
Yeah. Well, and also I would like to point out that we're taking for granted for some things because he's been with Avienda and he's been with Min for so long. he's never said I love you to either one of those two as well.
Mm.
This is the first time he's actually professed that out loud to them.
That's a good point because after he and Avienda had their little
He's
spicy
like, we got to get
getaway
married, but he never said I love
because
you.
we have to
Yeah.
get married because that's what you're supposed to do.
And
Yeah,
with
so
men, they banter back and forth, and she would be like, "Oh, shut up, sheep herder," and blah blah blah. But he never said, "I love you, men."
not that we've heard for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think it's important that Jordan did never said that in here.
Yeah.
And
I
even
really,
from her
yeah.
perspective, she doesn't say he loved me or he did this. She says he needs me or
I, I,
those
I,
type of words.
I
Yeah.
think Jordan is setting the stage here that this is the first time he has said this out loud to any of them, that this has not happened off screen.
Mm-hmm. Which
So,
first, second, third date, guys, don't be a stage 5 clinger. Do not say those words.
um,
Unless you've known this person all of your life and they finally went on a date with you, then
again,
maybe that's okay. But
again, to the ranting of the thing that we hate is I don't trust any of the actors that we have seen so far to pull this off.
oh no, none of
I,
them.
I ironically, except for Moiraine and Leandrin, who would never say that. Those two have been those two have really carried the show. Of the youngsters, I don't trust any of them to pull off this scene.
We haven't seen enough. To be fair, we haven't seen enough of the Min actress.
Yes, yeah,
She
correct.
she was
True,
okay,
true.
but she also had so much of a limited part. She couldn't be anything but okay.
Very, very short part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I love the imagery here of this is a burst dam. I think is a perfect metaphor here because Rand has been bottling everything up for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know,
this was so close to the moment he needed that Cerelia and Cadsuane wanted him to have, and it still didn't happen. This is how bottled up he is.
yes. But it all comes pouring out here that without a pause. I mean, it feels like a pause when you're reading it because it takes you a minute to read these sentences, but I mean that's key there. Without a pause, I love you, Elaine. I love you, Avienda. I love you, Min, and not one a whisker more or less than the other two. And I mean, we like I said, we could go down quite the rabbit hole of Nynaeve's reaction of that should make it better. But Nynaeve's, I love Nynaeve's reaction of Randall Thor, and Nynaeve shrieked. That is the most outrageous thing I ever heard out of your mouth.
Well, which actually is really not good form on her part because he finishes it off with, "That's why I can't have any of you." Because she just completely ignored the fact that he said that. It,
Well, but to her credit, or from her point of view, but he is having them because he's been going around with men, and now Nynaeve has to be thinking this is more than just a platonic relationship that they've been running around together, and you have to know that she is not happy about that. I mean,
still is great. Lance snatched his pipe from his mouth. Nothing shocks this man, and this shocked him. that is like as if he just like went, "What?"
Lan had snatched his pipe from his mouth and was staring at Rand.
That's the
But
biggest reaction you get out of Rand in the books to date.
but again, back to the rant of because they shacked up at the end of season 1, it loses its impact. One of the reasons this scene is so impactful is Nynaeve is the main character of Never Been Kissed. I think we can quite confidently say Lan is the first person she has ever kissed romantically, outside of the peck on the cheek for, friend, family member, whatever. They make out and she decides we're getting married. This sea captain is going to marry us, by golly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great scene, but it's great not just because of the surface level fun of it, but because it's perfectly in keeping with all of their characters from what we have seen now for not 8.5 books. This is the 9th book here, and it is perfectly in keeping that Lan snatches his pipe out of his mouth, stares at them, and says nothing. And Nynaeve is just shrieks. I mean, Nynaeve doesn't shriek. She yells, she growls, she sniffs, she snorts. She does not shriek, but she is completely flabbergasted here.
Which is, let me add a layer here because we just finished New Spring, not that long ago. Look at Land's past relationships, and this still shocked him to beyond reaction that we've seen from him before. He was basically periodically raped by a woman. and he's still
By today's
shocked by this
definition,
statement.
that we
Yeah.
would, yeah, by today's definition, there are plenty of people who would absolutely categorize it as what happened to Lan in New Spring as rape.
Which is funny because insert Matt into this situation and he would still be the same. He just dealt with Dylan and he would still be like, Rand, I didn't know. I always thought you knew more about women than me, but
Yeah, the only thing the only thing lacking in this scene is having Matt and Perrin there so that we can see their reactions.
and Perrin going like this, and then Fael just punching him. Perrin like, what are you talking about? And then Fael looking at him and being like, Perrin, boom, don't you get any ideas? That would have been fun.
Yeah. I love the way this
Matt. Oh, never mind. That's a spoiler. Never mind. I'll keep
so
that to
I
myself.
the way this scene ends is well, I like the I love you, Rand. Elaine said simply and blah blah blah. And Nynaeve's mouth worked, but no sound came out. My heart is in your hands, Rand, Avienda said, treating his name like something rare and precious, which to Aiel it is, because she called him Rand, not Rand al'Thor.
Mm-hmm.
That's that again, little detail there that matters because he doesn't make a point of it. You're supposed to pick that up. So remember, in Shadow Rising and Fires of Heaven, she always calls him Rand al'Thor. It's a big effing deal that she just calls him Rand here. And then, not only does she call him by his first name alone, if you make a bridal wreath for my first sister and me, I will pick it up. And she blushed too, trying to cover it in bending to take her shawl from the floor and arranging it on her arms. By Eel customs, she should never have said any of that. Nynaeve finally got a sound out, a squeak. If you don't know by this time that I love you, Min said, then you are blind, deaf, and dead. And as for marriage, well,
for her, he's been a stiff a couple times.
I also love the and as for marriage, well, we'll work that out between the three of us. So there.
She's the unicorn.
I love the we'll work that out between the three of us because it's yeah, this is women's business. This is women's circles business. Go away.
Oh. You're all mad, he said finally. I'd marry any of you, all of you, the light helped me, but it can't be. You know it. And Nynaeve collapsed into her chair.
Uh-huh.
All Elaine could understand was something about the women's circle swallowing their thumbs.
Yeah. I'd like to give the actress playing Nynaeve the benefit of the doubt, but we just haven't seen enough to know if she could pull this off.
I think she could. I think part of the problem is the directing, because there are flashes of times where every single one of them, even Perrin, has shown some good spots.
That's a good point. It's as much as I hated what they did with Nynaeve and Elaine in those last couple of episodes where they have those interactions alone, those are actually very good. I thought he's got one of those faces. I know I've seen the guy who plays Lan in other things, but it's like I know I've seen him
He
somewhere,
was
but I
in
can't remember what.
One thing you complained about, the Cowboy Bebop.
Wait, no, he wasn't Kumar. Harold. He wasn't Harold. He was something else.
Oh, was that?
That wasn't Harold.
No, he wasn't Harold and Kumar. No.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop was Harold and Kumar.
Oh, okay. So maybe I'm.
Yeah, different guy. You're thinking of something else. I'll have to
Uh,
look him up later and see what he's been in. But I know I've seen him in other things. I mean, even the nipple pounding scene, as much as we
no, it
hated
was
that,
well acted. It was just horrible,
it
horribly.
just didn't fit.
It
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to be there. Like I said, well, okay. So that scene, when remember I told you it was great till it wasn't. When he was pounding his chest to begin with, and he put his hand on Steppen, and while Rain, a tear came to her eye, and Nynaeve looked over and saw that tear. That's where it should have ended, and that would have been perfect, and it was
Mhm.
well acted up into that point because you could see he was holding it in. You could see it was coming out through Moiraine, through the bond, and you can see Nynaeve notice that and see how much he's struggling. And I was like, this is perfect until they did the nipples. And it was like, why did you add that bit? You actually directed an amazing scene that you had to ruin right at the last minute.
Mhm. Because
And
you don't understand the world,
you
you
don't
don't
understand the
understand the
world. Yeah.
characters. Yeah.
And everybody who would have read the books would have said Moiraine is the tear was from the bond. It wasn't just her being mushy. And everybody who is new to it would have been like, well, why was he so stoic but she started crying? And they would have looked it up and maybe been inspired to read the books.
Or they would have figured it out later
Mm-hmm.
when you should have explained that
The
bond a
water
little more.
bond, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's there is good acting in there. I don't trust the Rand character. He's the one that he's like Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker,
Mm,
where he just comes across as kind of like a brat sometimes. And
yeah.
that's the one I don't trust. The Perrin character, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, even though I can't stand the way he's played there. But I, they're so wrong about the way Perrin should be from the very beginning that I
Mm,
think it's actually the way they've written him, not necessarily the character. They're like
point.
they're telling him to be like freaking sling blade out there, and it's just not working. But they're wanting him to be just like the big teddy bear till he explodes in his berserker mode or whatever, and it's just not working.
Yeah. All right. So
And the best
let
actor of them all is the one that's not going to be there next season, which was Matt. And the dirty little secret. So for those that don't know the whole story that I've been looking into a lot,
oh, I do
he
not.
wouldn't get vaccinated.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I
That's why
was
they wrote him out of the
unaware.
last episode. That would remember they changed everything with the scenes because of the COVID stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he would not comply.
Well, you know what? Kudos to you. And as much as I hated the portrayal of Matt, he was actually as good a Matt as you could have with how the screenplay was written.
Mm-hmm.
He
Well,
he
and remember,
was
we're supposed to think of Matt that way in the beginning because he's under the dagger's influence most of the time.
yes. We see him for about a quarter of the book, maybe, or a fifth of the book before he gets the dagger. And then we don't see the real Matt until the Dragon Reborn.
And
Really.
realistically, the Matt you get before the dagger is stories about Matt.
That's a good point. Yeah. He does not really become a fully realized character, and we talked about that way back in our Dragon Reborn episode when you see him in the White Tower is oh this is Matt, and that's where he starts to become a fan favorite, and it's not an accident because you're finally seeing him,
Mm-hmm.
not the dagger. All right, so and then they get it on. Now, did you have more thoughts there or um
Forgot how detailed they got. I mean, I could have lots of thoughts about that kind of thing, but
yeah. I mean, I like so we're on 325 here when they finally get a loan. I do like the now what is it you don't want Nynaeve to hear? And they all kind of exchange startled looks, and I mean he's not a dummy. I mean he gets it.
mm-hmm.
Is something's going on here. Y'all have cooked something up between yourselves, and you don't want Nynaeve to know about it, even though she's already seen plenty that has left her damn near catatonic. Um, uh, um, I think this is really diving into and setting up how things are going to play out later. Land's point of sometimes she is stronger than you. So the bottom of page 325, when Elaine says, we want to bond you as our warder, all three of us, it is customary to ask first. You really are mad, he growled. You know what's ahead of me. You know what it means for anyone I'm bonded to. Even if I don't go insane, she has to live through me dying. And what do you mean all three of you? Men can't channel. Anyway, Alana Mosfani got here ahead of you and didn't bother asking. Blah, 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 blah. Uh, um, like every time I read this scene, I forget that Min doesn't know about Alana because Kadzuin knows about Alana.
Mm-hmm.
And then I keep forgetting, but Min wasn't there when that was revealed. Um, so Katsua knows about Alana and is using that to keep track of Rand, but Min doesn't know about it, and I find that very interesting. And you kept it from me, you bull-headed sheep herder, Min demanded. If I'd known, she definitely produced a slim knife from her sleeve, then glared at it and glumly put it back. That cure would have been as hard on Rand as on Alana. Um, and again, more than one thing happening at once. I like that Min's reaction is, here's a blade, I'm going to stab this bitch. Oh crap, I can't. But I like Avienda's. I mean, it's almost a throwaway line, which is why Jordan is so good. Because here what you have is what would be considered a throwaway line, and yet it tells you a lot. That Avienda's concern here is this was against custom, Avienda said, half questioning. She shifted on the carpet and fingered her belt knife. Very much so, Elaine replied grimly. Grimly indeed, because this is um from what we can tell, there isn't necessarily a custom against harming a wise one, or isn't necessarily a law against harming a wise one, because it's so custom to treat one with respect that what Savannah and the others did to, I don't remember that wise one's name, was worse than breaking a law.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you get here in this throwaway line with Avienda, is her concern is, wait, this violated custom? That's a big effing deal to her. Um, and then of course Rand thinks, well, this means that all right, we can't do this. All right, well, that's nice. So long. I'll be seeing you. Um, and of course the girls say, no. I mean, this isn't what we expected, but this does not deter us in the slightest. Mostly because I want you to give it to me raw and wriggling. Uh,
Wow.
um, all right, so 327 down in the middle. This is, I've referenced this before. Min, he murmured almost accusingly. His eyes on Min's face were filled with despair. You knew, didn't you? You knew if I laid eyes on them, dot, dot, dot. He shook his head, unable or unwilling to go on. I didn't know about the bonding until they told me less than an hour ago, she said, meeting his gaze with the most gentle look Elaine had ever seen. Which, again, a throwaway line, but that, uh, that matters. I mean, we have seen, as you pointed out, Min is a very masculine figure, and yet she is very motherly in this exchange here. Um, because of her uh how ingrained her feelings for Rand are. Um but I hoped what would happen if you saw them again. Some things have to be, Rand. They have to be. And there's more than one layer there because she's seen it in her visions, which she knows to be true. These are glimpses of the pattern.
Mm-hmm. But she also knows
But
she would lose him if she stood in the way.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And she personally, she knows I'll lose him if I stand in the way, but she also knows from her visions and from talking to these women, Elaine especially, they're different women than I am. They love him in different ways and for different reasons than I do, but their feelings are every bit as strong as mine are. And
Hmm.
I can't stand in the way here, and I shouldn't stand in the way here. Again, back to Land's line. Sometimes she is stronger than you are. Or in Rand's case, she's are stronger than you are because he needs three of them to smack him over the head because he's such a stubborn doofus.
Well, it's almost like a parallel to the fact that men can't link by themselves, but women can.
Mm,
And we
mm.
see this in a
I hadn't thought of
relationship
that. Yeah.
standpoint. I just didn't think of it till this just a moment. So,
That's back to how Jordan can write women so well and write the interaction between the sexes so well is, I mean, you have it ingrained in the physics of this world. So that's, I hadn't thought of that. That's pretty cool. Um,
well, we're in this to overanalyze. So let's do it.
exactly.
Yeah.
I like when they finally do bond him. I mean, you've got some good imagery there, but it's not new because we saw it a little bit when um in the bondings that we've seen with Elaine bonding Brigitte and with the first sister ceremony where they bond each other. Um, but this is um this is kind of parallels our talks and gripes about Nynaeve and Elaine and Matt of they should know better because they've been around Matt. They know Matt well enough to know that when he stands up in front of the golem and says, "No, you can't have him,"
Hmm.
that shouldn't be a surprise. And yet, because of their ingrained biases, it was a surprise to Elaine and Nynaeve, and it did finally shift their view of Matt. Same thing with Rand here. Of I love the imagery of them just being almost physically assaulted with his pain because they can finally feel it,
Hmm.
and and I love the way they each react. Like Avienda is blown away by, as she calls it, the veins of gold, which is kind of the counterpoint to the black lines of the Forsaken connecting to the Dark One. It's kind of the yin to that yang
Hmm. Yeah,
of how she
that's a good
sees it,
analogy. Yeah.
of
But
his.
also the fact that that burst came from Avienda is actually important. Had it been Elaine saying, "Oh, you do love me, you do love me," it would have been so Disney princess. But
Exactly.
coming from Avienda, it was something that she just didn't refuse to believe.
It's not part of her worldview
Hmm.
because of where she spent her whole life, and now all the so it's hard for her to understand love, let alone fully believe, oh wow, this person, this isn't just because we ended up naked under some blankets together. No, he really does love me.
Well, and this is also very important from my perspective, my what I bring to this the psychological perspective, because the thing that a female is afraid of the most when it comes to relationships is you're saying something but you don't mean it,
Mm,
especially when you use the word love.
mm.
You know, you say, I love you, baby. I love you, baby. I'm going to be there
Which
till
is
the end.
complicated by the fact that when men and women say love, they often mean different things because we experience it
Well,
differently.
but you're so the problem for women is you're always susceptible to the line. Is this a line or is this true? And they're actually getting insight to what is actually true with the words he says. And that's something that women don't typically get from the man.
And I have to think this was on purpose. This is a men are from Mars, women are from Venus moment for Jordan here of if you could just walk a mile in their moccasins, you would get it. That it's different. And I think that's illustrated by the fact that Rand is just sitting there. Is they're having this really deeply heartfelt moment because they're feeling the physical pain, they're feeling the deep bonds of love that he has, they're feeling all these things, and Rand is just sitting there as stoically as ever. Like like they're blown away by how do you even like Min, I think is the one who is like, uh, yeah, it's Min on page 320. Oh, Light Rand, the pain, Min murmured in a hurt voice. I never knew, I never imagined. How can you stand it? There are pains you don't even seem to know, as if you've lived with them so long, they're part of you. Those herons on your hands. This is a big one too, because for anyone who's ever had a bad burn,
Mhm.
those herons on your hand, you can still feel the branding. Those things on your arms hurt. And your side, oh light, your side. Why aren't you crying, Rand? Why aren't you crying? Because he's a man. And
Mhm.
it's just he's got to live with it. It's just something he has to live with.
Well, this is a thought I had actually from based on recent experience. Because what's one of the biggest complaints about men is they don't share their feelings. They don't share what's going on and blah 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 blah. Well, this is something recent with me is I walk a lot. So I walk on that hard rubber floor all day, every day, about 25,000 steps. So everybody's like, oh, get your 10,000 steps in and you'll be fit. I 1.5 times or 2.5 times that, right? Every day, all day. And I think I have a stress fracture in my calcaneus, which is the heel, the big giant
Ouch.
bone on the heel, because it's not plantar fasciitis because I can do all the movements with no pain. But as soon as I put pressure on it, it hurts like hell. But I go through all day, every day with no limp, just going through my job, doing box jumps with my clients and skips and bounds and everything. And then last night I was limping around the kitchen and my wife was like, oh, are you okay? Is your heel down? And I could barely walk. I was just kind of hobbling around. But that's it. That is the male version of showing yourself. I spent all day pretending like I didn't have any pain, but then it just all boiled out when I was alone with my wife. That's the male version of it. We don't have to talk about our feelings. We just let what's hurting us show to the people we love. And Rand hasn't gotten there yet. He's not even letting it show to the people he loves. He's not letting it show to anybody. And it's all well and good if he's in front of I mean, name conspirator here, what is it, why
Wiremon, the
Wiremon or
Wiremon.
somebody,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, name conspirator or whoever he's talking to, even the people on his side like Rourke, not showing his pain there. But then when he's alone with Min or Elaine or Avienda or even Nynaeve, to 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 just be like, my hands or my side or whatever, that's the male emotion showing.
Good point.
You're okay being vulnerable in front of that person when you can't be in front of anybody else. And that popped in my head when she said, oh, you're hurt, how's your foot's hurting, what is that happening, what's going on. I had faked this thing all day, and then I was like, I was okay with her seeing it.
I hadn't even
That's the comfort
thought
zone.
of that my wife has to explain more to people than I do about the degree of constant pain I'm in and live with, because like even to my family, like my parents and my brothers and my sisters, is that I don't show it. I don't deal with it. I don't talk about it with them. She sees it every day, and just without even thinking about it, I don't feel a problem saying I feel like crap
Mm-hmm.
because, in the same way that book ending it to where we started of or some close to where we started with Nynaeve grabbing Land's arm and leaning against him in, oh my gosh, let me tell you about the crap I had to deal with all these queen bees, the sea folk who I hate. Here's what's going on, and just take me back to our room and help me escape from this crap. Nynaeve does not do that even with Elaine and Egwene, who she's very close with. I mean, you talk about the things they have shared and experienced together, and to an extent, you would think that Elaine would be even closer with Egwene and or Elaine than she is with Land, but that's not the case because that's just how men and women work, and that's how men and women together in a bonded pair work.
Actually the bond is kind of symbolic of that. Now his vulnerability is exposed to the people he loves, whether he wants to show it or not.
Speaking of bonding, and then we get to actually, Rand, there's something you've shared with the other two that you haven't shared with me. Now help me with
I
my
want it
buttons.
now.
I want it now.
Oh, yeah, that is definitely going to be the meme for the day.
Who were we listening to a while back? It wasn't the last time I was down there, but it was the time before that. And it was, I think it was the British guy. Who's the British guy that you listen to that like
Chris
used to be like
Williamson.
club guy? Yeah, Williamson. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he made this point, and this is a point I've been making for a while, and it annoys me that, oh crap, people are going to think I stole this from him. This is a point I've been making for a while. This is a major reason men and women experience sex differently. Because sex, as good as it is for men, it is all external. It's internal
Yeah,
for
because he
women.
made the point you're letting someone inside you, and that sounds cliche, but it is true. You are
That's a big effing deal.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not someone standing on your lawn, it's someone in your house.
Hmm.
It's
And to that point, that is why virginity is a bigger deal to, and it's, oh, because it's sexist. Well, no, because it's different. That's why it's a bigger deal for girls than it is for boys. It's why we can read a story about a student who has an affair with his teacher, and if it's a boy having an affair with his hot teacher versus if it's a girl and a 40-year-old guy, and we're like, get the rope, because it's different. It simply is, physically for sure, obviously, but then emotionally too, because of, the witchcraft that's going on in their head. So all of a sudden, it's not an accident that this chapter, up until the point where it switches to men, once they leave the room, that uh this chapter is all from Elaine's view, and she's in charge, by golly. And rightfully so, and masterfully so. She is a strong female character. She's in charge here throughout this whole chapter, up until the point of, you're gonna have to help me with my buttons here. And then she kind of, then she's suddenly nervous and unsure and a little embarrassed, and,
mhm.
well, yeah, because this is different. This is something, she was fine with taking charge of. It won't do, Rand. You've got to talk to us. You've got to talk to all of us, and we're going to work this out. And now all of a sudden, it's why the scene works so well, because it's so real.
Mhm. The only thing I don't like is this is her first time, and typically for a female, the first time is not that enjoyable for lots of physiological reasons. But every first time in Jordan's books are amazing, and that's a
That's
little beef there, little
yeah,
little
that's the erotic
nitpicking.
fiction part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But other than that, it's very good. I mean, even with Nynaeve, Lan is very experienced, and apparently he can throw down according to New Spring, and and Nynaeve was her first time, so she would have been breaking hymens and stuff, and
Ochi.
yeah.
Where is it? Speak. Oh yeah. Oh, Light Rand, the pain. Oh wait, no, that wasn't it. That was wrong page.
Wrong page.
Yeah, where it is here. So where um Birgitte is, she may be a prude in public, but if I know her, once she's caught her breath, she's gonna want to put him through his paces again, I believe is how she phrases it. Um, I don't know if that would, but whatever, it makes for fun. Um,
I thought I had a meme. I might not have saved it, but it was all the Spider-Mans pointing at each other, and it was everybody except for Elaine during the scene, and Brigitte through the bond, pointing at Avienda through the sister bond, pointing at Avienda through the regular bond, pointing at Min through the other bond, and yeah, everybody who got to feel it. But
yeah. I do like that what little bit we get with Min and Avienda here is it's very real. It's very keeping in their characters. It's so page 335 here where they're stumbling away because and I it kind of took me a minute. I don't know when I realized this of, oh wait, this scene here in A Lily in Winter on page 331 to 335 ish. Um this is why we overanalyze, because Jordan actually set this up like 3 books ago with Brigitte getting drunk. So this isn't the way the bond is supposed to work, but because they're all women, they feel it more acutely. And
Mhm.
I would imagine that's because when you're feeling what a man's feeling, you're not exactly sure what you're feeling because we experience things differently. So both all of these women, Brigitte included, because she's quite the experienced woman, um, they've all experienced sex before, and not just sex, but sex with Rand. So they have a much more literal idea of what they're feeling. So it is much more like they're feeling it. Um, and so it Jordan was it's he was setting this up books ago with Elaine being tipsy because Birgitte get drunk. And now you see it in a much more amusing circumstance, even more amusing circumstance here with Avienda and Min trying to uh navigate the world while they're fighting off sexual bliss, shall we say. Um, but I do
See,
enjoy this.
this is where being pillow friends would have come in handy. They could have just had their own fun.
um,
This is spoiler for later, but this is it's relevant. I won't say it out loud in case you're just listening.
yes, yes, this is true.
Yes.
Um, where is it? So the top of page 335. Um, so they're talking about there's a trick to mask the bond, so it's just kind of fuzzy, so it's like a buzz instead of being drunk. Avienda blinked and crimson darkened her face. A moment later, she said, "That is better, thank you. With him in my head, I forget." She frowned. "It did not work for you?" Min shook her head miserably. "This was indecent." So I love the juxtaposition there of just a few minutes ago, they had no problem saying in front of Nynaeve and Lan, "I love you too, Rand, that we all love you, all of this." And then Nynaeve's freaking out. But for them, no, this is just the way it is. But now all of a sudden, no, this is indecent. But,
It
but
would kind of be like being with somebody and you like just come across their old sex tapes or something. And you're just like,
like, "Arr!
whoa, hey,
Whoa, hey now."
yeah.
Um, where is it? "I'm sorry for
They're
what I
married to
said."
a porn star.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Um, "I'm sorry for what I said. About toes, I mean. I know a little of your customs. There's something about that man." This is very women and very female. We're not supposed to talk about it, but of course you're blaming the man. "That just makes me cheeky. I can't control my tongue, giggity. But don't think I'm going to let you start hitting me or carving on me. Maybe I have toe, but we'll have to find some other way. You could always groom your horse when we have time." "You are as proud as my sister," Avienda muttered, frowning. Um, what did she mean by that? "You have a good sense of humor too, because Aiel are twisted and warped because they come from a very weird place." Which, if you've ever been around veterans, it's not weird because that's what he's doing here is the
Or
with
locker
Aiel
rooms.
or locker rooms.
Yeah.
That's just like a level down because it's not as serious as the dark humor of combat veterans. Um, I
We need to get Chuck on for that one. He is good with the dark humor.
like every time I read this scene, and I don't know why, I always forget that Min has never met Birgitte. And so the bottom of page 335 is when she actually sees her technically for the first time. She kind of saw her back in the Great Hunt, which is referenced here.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy it because the Avienda, this is just Birgitte, my first sister's warder, and a friend that I'm trying to navigate the life with because we have a very odd relationship here. Um uh but to Min, this is oh, as she thinks it here at the bottom of 330, coming towards them was an apparition that made Min's jaw drop. And again, Min is very even keeled. She very as she talks about it here. She's dealing with the Dragon Reborn, for crying out loud, and she's cheeky, is what Rand makes her, and yet she's flabbergasted. Her jaw literally drops at the sight of Brigitte because she's quite the living legend. Um, and because of that, she can see. I like the way that diffuses the situation in an interesting way, because Brigitte is hell bent on no, I've got stuff to do, and I can't have her in my head doing what I know she's doing because I'm way more experienced than her, doing what I know she's doing and what I know she's going to want to do more of. So I'm gonna go stop this. And then Min says, "Oh my goodness, you're actually her. Not just someone who looks like her. You are actually her." And that, like, just Brigitte runs into a brick wall with that. So I like the clever way. There's no contrivance here. This all makes perfect sense of, no, we, from what we know about Brigitte, she would have absolutely no qualms about barging into Elaine's room while she's literally in the middle of losing her virginity and saying, "Stop it. I've got things I need to get done." But she is stopped by that, not by the pleas and the rationalizations of Min and Avienda of, don't interrupt her. She'll die of embarrassment of, this is special. She needs this time. No, what stops her is Min going, "Holy crap, you're actually her." And that, like, bursts the bubble of Brigitte in this moment and reminds her of all of the trauma that she's come from. So there's actually a little bit of a dark moment here in this otherwise humorous scene of kind of Brigitte getting deflated because Min recognizes who she actually is. And
Mm-hmm.
it's, if you dwell on it too much, it's actually kind of dark, because she is, as much fun as she is because she's so Matt light, she is a very tragic character.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, she just ripped out of her perpetual destiny, which
And ripped away from her perpetual bond
that's what I
with
was, yeah, that's what I was
with
trying to figure
Guido.
out the words to say, because it's not only her bond, but it's her happy place.
And I think,
Her life has been
yeah,
violent every time she's been spun out, but her happy place in that violent life is Guidel Kane. And she's been ripped out of that into another violent life with a very good expectation that she's not going to get her happy place.
and there's something she says when she's talking about it early on that makes me think that they're not always spun out necessarily as lovers, but they always need each other.
Mm-hmm.
She is very clear on that. They always need each other, especially him needing her. That they're always, if they don't have each other, they're always in trouble. And so that's where the dark moment comes in of, I don't know that I'm going to be able to be there for him and him for me. And when she has before she starts to lose her memories of her cycles, is she knows that for sure, that we always need each other. And that's really where the dark moment comes in, is reminding her of that moment. I do like the moment when Birgit realizes who it actually is that she's in there banging. So this is 338. Him? Birgit said softly. Mother's milk in a cup. She could have fallen in love with a cut purse or a horse thief, but she had to choose him. More fool her. But by what I saw of him at that place you mentioned, the man's too pretty to be good for any woman. In any case, she has to stop.
Elaine,
Uh,
Avienda, and I just bonded a order. And if Elaine is celebrating a little,
a little.
you better think twice about storming in, or you'll be the one sitting tender.
Yeah. No, she's too self-assured to say, she's lost in the moment, and I'm gonna go knock some sense into both of them. I don't care if he's literally the most powerful channeler in the world, and she's my Aes Sedai.
Well, that also makes you wonder what Elaine and Rand are feeling right now, because they could also feel each other.
That would be super weird.
It would be super advantageous because there would be no faked orgasms.
That would be super weird, but also super interesting because of what I said earlier is I don't know how much the normal Warder process functions because you don't really know what you're
I think
feeling.
Moiraine in her head mentions Lan being with women and her shutting off the bond at that time.
She
So
does, yeah.
yeah, so there would be no reason to shut off the bond if you don't feel anything.
But it would be different, and because you're experiencing it from the man's point of view, it's not as real. Whereas and Jordan makes this point back when Elaine gets tipsy is why is it this isn't the way the Warder bond is supposed to work, and Birgitte is the one who says, I don't know, maybe it's because we're both women. So I think much more so here because you're the warlock here, so maybe you can explain the witchcraft. But I would assume that when a male or a female gets inebriated, it's basically the same biochemical reaction.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I would think it's very different with sex.
Oh, absolutely. Down to the hormones that are released. So it's uh and it depends. It really depends on the mindset going into it too. Uh Post, like you said, the woman wants to cuddle. Like I said, the important thing there is oxytocin. Where with a man, it's we did this thing together. So it's that bonding through a different way. And for a one night stand for a guy, you may not get that. You're going to get a testosterone boost. You're going to get the satisfaction from it. But if you're not with an end goal of doing this thing together, you don't get any bonding response to that. Where the female pretty much gets it every time.
And I think that's perfectly written here at the end of this chapter. So 339. When the fun hilarity ends and it breaks and we switch back to Elaine's point of view. When Elaine woke the next morning, the bedchamber was icy, a light snow was falling on Camelin, and Rand was gone, except inside her head. That would do. She smiled a slow smile. She gets to cuddle even though he's not there, is basically what's happening there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I think Jordan is saying there is and this is back to where we first kind of learn about this or have we? It's a scene with Perrin where uh one of the Ashaman that's with Perrin is thinking it is like talking out loud of my wife is like it's cold and her knee is bothering her or something like that. And oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking out loud because it's a thing one of us guys figured out so that we could stay close to our women, our wives, even though we have to be separated. And you know, uh what a boon that would be if you could actually do that. Um because men want to know that their women, their wives are okay. Women want to feel that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so you both get what you need there. Is Brand can feel, all right, she's okay. She's there. She's where she's supposed to be. She's doing her thing. And just in general, I can feel that she's okay. But for Elaine, she gets that connection. It's like, okay, he's still here. He didn't just, you know, leave in the middle of the night in your typical one night stand kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is Jordan just kind of reinforcing that they have this connection that is more than just a magical connection. There is a deep emotional and psychological connection here because of the magical connection that they're able to perpetuate this relationship despite the physical distance.
All right. Not to rain on this parade, but we should probably bring this to a close
Yep.
because we've been going 2.5 hours
Yep.
on this.
For 2 chapters when I was hoping we would get through like 6.
Yeah,
But next time is it just me or are all of the chapters in Winter's Heart pretty long?
they are. And they're
Um,
they're all pretty meaty too. We brought this up with our echoey episode with the prologue. It was probably the meatiest prologue we've had. So
yeah, there's a
like you said, this is probably one of the better books. I still think Dragon Reborn was the best of them all, but it is one of the better ones. And so I don't mind spending more time on it. At the same time, we do have to like cut this one to a close because
I would say in no particular order, my top books in the series are, and the order depends on what mood I'm in, but Eye of the World, Dragon Reborn, Shadow Rising, Winter's Heart, and Knife of Dreams are my top 5. And Winter's Heart and Knife of Dreams probably trade places at 4 and 5, just kind of depending on what mood I'm in. And then Dragon Reborn and Shadow Rising are like 1 and 2, depending on what mood I'm in.
yeah, I still think Dragon Reborn is my favorite, but I've grown to love this one and the Shadow Rising as well. So, all
All
right,
right, so the next chapter, there's some interesting things that happen because we switch between some lesser characters, and then we finally get back to Matt. We get back to Tanchico and what's going on there. Or not
okay.
Tanchico, that was way like Ibudar.
Oh,
That was a
one thing I
different
didn't
song.
look up is spoilers.
Okay.
Let me look that up while you talk about Tom.
Okay,
Yeah. So we're in the spoiler section. Everybody leave now if you haven't read them all.
go away because this is a major spoiler. Tom and Moraine ending up together at the end of the series. Even though by the time I read it, I was married and did I have both kids by that point? At least one kid. I'm trying to remember when the last 3 books came out. But anyway, it still struck me as odd because even as a married man with kids, I'm still young and still in that kind of romantic phase. And so them ending up together felt odd to me. Um, and I don't know how to uh think of it in different terms, but all right, so let me put it this way, and this may resonate with other people as well. To me, it was really weird when my grandpa remarried because Ma and Pa were Ma and Pa. It wasn't Pa and Ma. It was them together as a kid growing up. So then, and you add to the weirdness the fact that my dad was stationed in Germany at the time, so we weren't around when he remarried. It was Pa remarried. I was like, what? Who's this person? What's going on here? This is weird. Um, so as a kid, it was weird. And you add to that the fact that I just vaguely remember my great grandpa on my mom's side because he died when I was so young. And so to me, it was always great grandma by herself, and she never remarried. Men and women are different. So it was weird that Pa remarried because my experience was great grandma who never remarried. Okay, but when you're a mature, established individual who has lived in the world and had a lot of life experience, you don't need the puppy love. And so it took a while for me to get, oh wait, no, the the bond between Tom and Moraine is actually set up. You just don't see it if you haven't had enough life experience to know what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, because we were talking about Lan and Nynaeve and there's a reason Lan and Moraine wasn't a thing. and that Maureen and Tom were a thing. It it if you don't know what you're looking for, it really seems like it comes out of left field. And so I think we should probably spend a fair amount of time talking about it when we actually get there,
Mm-hmm.
because it was teased a couple books ago when Matt gives the letter to Tom from Moraine, and you see there's something more in there than what we assume, which is she told him that she would give him the details on what happened to Owen and who was responsible. And for someone like you can do a lot with that. That was a big admission on Moraine's part, you
Mm-hmm.
know, more than just I know who you are and I know your capabilities. That was a very tender moment that you don't understand if you haven't had the life experience or have read the whole series to understand who these people are and where this is going. And so I'm curious to see what your thoughts and our thoughts are going to be when we actually get there here at whenever the hell that happens. I think it's the second to the last book, isn't it,
Mm-hmm.
where they finally get her back. That I mean, certainly for Matt, I felt like Matt Matt was my avatar in that scene because to him, as a young man who's literally just gotten married, he does this makes no sense to him. Was wait a minute, I thought you two hated each other.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not getting it. Just because they were at odds, just because they were opposed on some things doesn't mean they hated each other. Um, there was actually some real connection that happened there, and even when they were apart, there was enough connection there. And you see this in um is it the Dragon Reborn where we get a bit of Tom's point of view where he's thinking about Moraine and he thinks, why did I think of that? Well, because you actually had a connection because
Mm-hmm.
because of because of your life's trajectory, because of where you are personality wise and how close they are kind of intellectually, and because of how their life trajectory is really kind of fated them to meet up and be together.
Well, and there's something to be said about the fact that, again, when you're young and the chemicals are just flowing through and you get that puppy love and everything, this is one reason I'm so big on the post-romantic part of marriage, is because as you get older, that almost becomes what it is even going into a relationship,
Mm.
where it develops from mutual respect. So if you get, Twitter pated with someone, to quote the Bambi movie, and you just go into it and everything's great, honeymoon phase, you get married, but you never have any kind of mutual respect for each other, you're guaranteed to be in that statistic of a divorce. But if you have that mutual respect as a backbone to all the other stuff, then you're going to get to the hard time of not having that everything is great about this person moment and say, but yeah, but I still respect them and they're a great person. And
That's a
that
good, yeah.
that gives you the shot going forward. Now take two people who are already past that stage, and they're not going to be producing the same hormones that you would at 20.
That's a good point.
It actually
And
starts with that.
and that really shines a light on that because again, the first time I read it, it was like, well, this came out of nowhere, but it doesn't because you go back to those opening chapters of The Shadow Rising when Moraine confronts Tom and he basically says, "Get the hell out of here." After she tells him, "Look, you go do this thing that I want you to do, and then I'll do this thing for you." It's not because he's mad at Moraine. It's not because he doesn't respect Moraine. It's get the hell out of here because you have just touched a very raw nerve, and I don't want you to be here right now. I don't want you to see
Mhm.
this. I don't want you to see me. I don't want you to see what happens. And as soon as she leaves, he kind of collapses because he's so raw emotionally. But it's not because of Moraine, it's because of what Moraine manipulated that was already there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it definitely has precedence as we go forward. Uh, Comments, because I didn't have any other
Comments.
spoilers.
Yeah, I didn't remember bringing anything up.
Let's see. Sort by newest first, so we'll start at the bottom. Elaine's education was missing in a few areas. She never read Machiavelli or the about the bourgeois. Her education assumed she would come to the throne through peaceful change of power. She has never
Mm.
taught about secession wars or revolution. Now, I don't know exactly where it is, but she does mention in her own head talk in one of the chapters about actually education on secessions. So we do get that in the text somewhere, and I think it's actually in the future. So we'll come across it and we'll make sure to make a note of it there. But I do think she makes a point about how she was drilled about the previous secessions.
Well, true, but I think Scott's right in that
The expectation was
the
that
expectation
yeah.
was, yeah, that this would happen. The only um her expectation was the only wrinkle in her succession would have been that I'm a full Aes Sedai, which has not happened since like the Trolloc Wars.
Mm-hmm. So comment number 2, Nynaeve should have chosen freedom over being Aes Sedai. Cadsuane wasn't released from the Oath Rod. Retired Aes Sedai generally just live like Adelais and Vandene, where were when Moraine showed up. So two comments in one there.
Yeah,
Nynaeve should have chose freedom over Aes Sedai, but have you ever dealt with a stubborn woman? She wants it all. She wants to be a free Aes Sedai. And
she wants to be Cadsuane.
she wants,
That's
yeah.
why, and we're going to see that here in a little bit when their storylines merge. When here in a little bit when they go to Farmading, and Elaine and Nynaeve has to deal with Cadsuane is the reason they butt heads. And I think there's a point where Cadsuane kind of thinks this, where you get a small scene from Cadsuane's point of view, is that the reason they butt heads and the reason she's so hard on Nynaeve is because she sees herself.
Hmm.
And she knows that I didn't get where I'm at now automatically. So she needs to temper Nynaeve. That's Cadsuane's kind of point of view, I think. And it's because Cadsuane, much more than Nynaeve, would understand how you get to be an independent Aes Sedai.
Mm-hmm.
That, keep in mind, she's a living legend, but she certainly couldn't have started out that way. By the time we first hear about her chronologically, so we first hear about her in the books. Boy, when does she make her first appearance?
Well,
Lord of Chaos?
chronologically, it's in New Spring,
Exactly.
but yeah.
So the first time I think we hear about her is in Lord of Chaos, I think, or maybe a Crown of um crap when whatever. But even chronologically, by the time we see her in New Spring, she's already a living legend because she's already almost 300 years old. She's
Mm-hmm.
already done all of these things. She knows, and I think to a degree, eh, I think you get this, and we'll see it as we get some more Cadsuane points of view. She does respect Nynaeve. Nynaeve doesn't think Cadsuane respects her, but she does. But she respects Nynaeve's potential.
Mm-hmm.
Because Nynaeve thinks, oh, you don't respect me because you're not going to give me what I think I'm due right now. But it's because Cadsuane thinks, no, you can't be who you want to be right now. You
Well,
need tempering.
again, I don't know if it's Wheel of Time or the social episodes. I've talked about the sweet spot for women is like 30 to 35.
Giggity. Oh, wait, what?
No. So let me say that out loud, just in case anybody hasn't heard that talk from me. But every girl under 30, every female under 30 wants to be treated like they're older. And every woman over 35 wants to be younger. And so that sweet spot is between 30 and 35, where they're getting the respect of being a little older, but they're still young enough to be young. And Nynaeve's still in that spot where she wants to be treated like she's older. And Cadsuane understands, but she's also takes no bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, I know you might be even ahead of where I was at your age, but there's this thing called experience, and experience matters.
But you
It,
are young, and because of
yeah.
your youth and your raw emotion, you still make mistakes, and I need to beat those out of you
Yeah.
so that you can be what I think you can be.
If you're 20 years old and you read 10 books a year, and I read 5 books a year, but I'm 43, I've still read more books than you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
yeah, experience does matter. And been there, done that is different than theory. Mathematical models versus the actual experiment. It's
So as for the oath rod thing, from what I haven't looked back at the old forum posts and things, but my recollection of Cadsuane was that Cadsuane and Varen are the reasons the purple Ajah theory came about.
mm-hmm,
Was this idea that there was this secret society diametrically opposed to the Black Ajah, and so for lack of a better term, the fan base called it the purple Ajah. I don't remember who first posited this theory online, and the idea was that they were bound by the oath rod, but they weren't bound by the three oaths, that they had released themselves and taken different oaths with a focus on um the tower. The Jaws all have their own individual focuses in the world. The idea of the purple Ajah is that this was a secret society. So ostensibly every Ajah is opposed to the dark one and the dark friends and the shadow. But the idea of the purple Ajah was this was a secret society that was directly and completely focused on the shadow, including within their own ranks.
mm-hmm,
And so the theory was because there were some fuzzy things that Varen and Cadsuane in particular do that made people think, are you bound by the lying oath? Not that you aren't unbound entirely, but that you're not bound by that particular oath.
mm-hmm. Well, and there's also a third wrinkle that I was thinking of after we had that discussion is what does spending time in far modding do?
Mm,
Because remember, it negates the power.
mm,
And does that negate the effects of things you've done with the power, like swearing on the oath rod?
yeah.
Even for a time, can you spend time there and not be bound and not be affected by the things that happen, like becoming old or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that's kind of touched on way back in the Great Hunt, but we never really get a deep exploration of because as Varen kind of talks about there when they go to that steading is there's not a lot of study on the effect of a steading on a channeler because we just don't feel comfortable here. No one wants to spend time here.
Yeah, and this is one we'll get to when we get there because it's a long way from now. But
Yeah.
Esam somehow folds the reality between Tel'aran'rhiod and the real world in Farmodding. But as far as we've seen, even with Isam, to do it in the flesh can only be done with the power. And somehow he's able to do that inside that
That's
area.
a massive teaser spoiler for my theory on the very end of the book. Because one of the big mysteries at the end of the book was when Rand lights his pipe. And everyone said, how the hell did he do that? Because he can't channel it anymore.
Did he have a well like Cadsuane does? No.
And what was the eureka moment for me is way back when we first started this. I don't remember when you first started to talk more in depth about the world of dreams.
Mm.
And there's a major World of Dreams component in Rand's confrontation with the Dark One.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's why Esam's even a part of it.
And
Yeah.
somehow, I think Rand merged with the World of Dreams in a similar fashion to what has happened to Isam and
Lord Luke,
Lord Luke.
who
Yeah.
killed Rand's dad. And then Esam killed Lord Luke, and they became one.
Mhm. Yep.
Another
It's
tryst. Another tryst.
which is
The
just barely touched on. Yeah.
yeah.
It's one of those it's kind of one of those nuggets of, oh man, when you really think about it and you start to go into a kind of a deep spiral in the same way that Rand did a couple books back when he was looking up at the paintings on the ceiling of the monarchs of Andor and thinking about the complexity of the age lace, and if this person hadn't told that person that thing so that they went here and did that thing, and so then that person would go that thing and this thing and then that thing, I never would have been born, which is weird. And which is why it's so fun. It's like one of the reasons 12 Monkeys was one of my favorite movies was because I left that theater with Chuck and we had like a 45-minute conversation about it after we had like a 10-minute piss because we both really had to go and neither one of us wanted to
I
leave in the middle of the movie.
I love 12 Monkeys. I have it here if we want to watch it next time you come down. But uh no, it's one of those things that my great grandmother on my mother's side was pregnant when she was supposed to come to the States, which she ended up getting on a boat and coming over, but she forgot her papers for the first boat, and the first boat sank. So forgetting your papers at home is why I'm here. And
Yep. All right. So, well, let's wrap this up with a massive spoiler alert, Scott. Fan theory was wrong. Bella is obviously the creator. No. There are plenty of fan theories that Bella is the avatar of the creator, and I think they are proven true. But spoiler alert.
yeah.
That's a joke, by the way, but nobody cares. Anyway, I really have to pee, and we have been rambling for quite some time.
Almost 3 hours now. So if you stuck
Yeah.
around, thank you, Scott. We will be more on task next time. Actually, we got one more for Labor Day, right? And
Yeah, because
then
you're gonna be gone, and so we'll have to see. We probably won't be able to do that. And then yeah, because next weekend you're gonna be heading out. Uh,
the weekend of September 15th is when I'm leaving for Germany and coming back the 24th.
but next weekend you're not gonna be around, are you? On the first, because you're headed to
Yeah, headed to San Antonio, so we'll have to do Thursday
yeah,
there, or Wednesday afternoon. We'll have to do a double header with a short one of each,
depending on
or
your
we'll
class
just
schedule. Yeah,
or we'll just prioritize Wheel of Time and just do one.
and then after that, oh God, the second season will have been out, so we'll have to talk about that. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but we can do that in a social episode because it is current.
I
It's not reread material. It's bitching about current entertainment. So
That's true. That's true.
yeah.
All right. Well, we will see y'all then, whenever then is. And hopefully, even though we only got through two chapters here, hopefully it was enjoyable and interesting. And then we'll see how far we get next time.
Yeah, and I'll try to get this up tonight on Friday night, but it is
Giggity.
5:20, but it's going to take a while for both of these videos to
Yeah.
render. Uh so
I
I will
already got it up for a nooner, so I'm good.
all right.
Wait, no. What are we talking about?
Elaine having her nooner with Rand
Right. So I'm
and
still on
everybody being
topic.
privy. So they could have flicked their bean and everybody could have had fun. It would have. I mean, what better? I mean, it's like sometimes you touch it and it's more sensitive than others. It would have been like the perfect time. It would have. And then she would have felt it going back the other way too. And you could have made her suffer while she's with her man, while she's making you suffer while she's with her man.
Yeah, we may let's try not to open up that can of worms, but maybe we will next time. All right. See y'all then.
Later.